Chapter 271 Ma Tang and Han Sui. In the bitter cold of Shiliang, Ma Tang and Han Sui properly entered the situation of no tigers in the mountains and monkeys as kings after Dong Zhuo was lit with sky lanterns. But unfortunately, one mountain could not tolerate two tigers. Because of this, after Dong Zhuo's death, Han Sui and Ma Tang, who were originally difficult brothers, immediately turned their faces, and the two sides opened their armies and horses to fight in Shiliang. Compared with Ma Tang, Han Sui can be described as having many soldiers and generals, and his wisdom is superb. But Ma Tang also has his own advantages. After Ma Yuan, he fought in the local area, and he was still a brother of the Chong people, and he would not lose it, but he often fell into some insignificant schemes, losing thousands of people or something, but there were many Chong people. And there was no pressure for Ma Tang to die. Chapters are updated the fastest. In short, these two people fought endlessly after Dong Zhuo's death, and the fight was called a dark day. Compared with the endless calculations in the Central Plains, these two people are fist admirers, even if Han Sui is known as the 9 curves in Shiliang, and a bunch of schemes make Ma Tang a disgusting mess, but really only talk about intelligence, can only never see the market. And not long ago, Ma Tang and Han Sui both received the news of the arrival of the angel, and the two of them withdrew their troops and waited for the angel to arrive whether they wanted to or not. Ma Tang took his son, as well as the elite of the brigade and Han Sui to Jincheng to wait for the angel to come. However, as soon as the two sides met, they sneered at each other, and after a while, the two sides followed Shiliang's consistent policy of being fist-sized and fought again. But it was obvious that this time compared to the previous kind of death, both sides could be regarded as merciful. After all, the angel was about to come. They don't bathe and change clothes, burning incense and praying is already against etiquette. If they kill each other as before, it will really be the emperor as a bad person. Yang Xing. The young master must kill you this time. Ma Chao lost his helmet, turned over and stared angrily at Yang Xing following Han Sui and said, he must return the shame and humiliation a year ago this time, and that time he was accidentally almost killed by Yang Xing. A few more times you will die. Yang Xing sneered and held the spear. This time I will never show mercy. Who wants your men to show mercy? Suffer death, Yang Xing. Ma Chao's eyes were staring at Yang Xing with fire. The horse was pulled towards Yang Xing. Report, the angel has entered the Golden City. A herald rushed in at the right time and stopped Ma Chao's move. He also gave Ma Tang a reassurance, and he had no pressure to die from others. But Ma Chao, the eldest son, had high hopes. How could he let him fight Yang Xing? You must know that a year ago, if it weren't for Ma Chao's fate, the shot would have directly broken Ma Chao's neck. Meng Qi stepped back. Ma Tang spoke. Yang Ming, you also restrain your temper. What do you care about with children? If you accidentally slip your hands, it will not be good if you let people lie down for a few months. Han Sui said strangely. You. Let go of Ling Ming, I'm going to kill that guy. Ma Chao was originally dragged back by Pound, but when he heard Han Sui's tone, he instantly became furious, and he was about to kill Yang Xing. Yang Xing glanced at Ma Chao coldly, his eyes were full of disdain, if he hadn't been a young general last year. The spear is a new weapon. How can Ma Chao be so active today? I didn't know where I died for a long time. Ma Chao was even more angry. But unfortunately Pound's strength was not weaker than Ma Chao, he was older than Ma Chao, his body was more burly, and his strength was much stronger than Ma Chao, so naturally he would not let Ma Chao rush over. Speaking of which, Pound knew very well that Ma Chao would not actually be in danger against the current Yang Xing, but he did not want Ma Chao to kill him, because Ma Chao was only 17 years old now. This book is all a virtual year, and the same year is also a lunar calendar. After all, it is the Three Kingdoms era. The 17-year-old Qi refining into the peak of the gang can be broken through with only one opportunity, and Yang Xing's 20-something Qi refining into the peak of the road is basically not comparable. Pound knew very well that as long as Ma Chao was not surprised, the Ma family could have a supermaster in 3 years at most, and there was no need to expose this biggest trump card for a moment. Shoucheng, it seems that your son needs to discipline 1 or 2, TSK, no respect or humility. I heard that your family is a descendant of General Fubua. Why does it seem that there is no Han etiquette? Han Sui's words had already begun to slap him in the face, and he despised Ma Chao's behavior. Chao stepped back. Ma Tang said angrily. Father. Ma Chao stared at Ma Tang and shouted dissatisfiedly. Step back. Ling Ming is optimistic about him. Ma Tang glared at Ma Chao and said. It didn't take long to see a person claiming to be an envoy of the emperor. Han Sui and Ma Tang both got up to greet them, but after seeing it with their own eyes, they were immediately surprised, only to see that the messenger was in tattered clothes, yellow and thin, and his eyes were dull. In other words, this is Joshu's carefully selected image. Only this unlucky situation can show that Han Qianzi is miserable enough now, and it is enough to show that the Son of Heaven is now in a hurry to seek medical treatment. I don't know if the angel is coming, Han Sui said with a frown. I saw the angel glancing blankly at Han Sui, and his right hand, which was no different from chicken feet, took out an imperial edict from his arms, wilted and handed it to Han Sui, and then Ma Teng stretched out his hand to grab the other half. 2. I've been here for a few days. The grain of rice is not finished. The angel seems to have no strength to pronounce the decree. Hurry up and set up a banquet. Invite the angels to the table. Ma Teng pointed to the back room next to him and said, the banquet is ready. I saw that the other party returned the salute weakly, and then wilted and walked towards the back room, leaving Han Sui Ma Teng with big eyes to small eyes. It seems that your majesty is not having a good life. Ma Teng sighed and said after the angel walked away. I think we should open the imperial decree first. Han Suizai doesn't care about the life or death of the little emperor. In his opinion, he just has a good life. As for the emperor, if you can give me benefits, you are the emperor. If you don't give me benefits, go to your emperor. Ma Teng and Han Sui held each hand and walked to the table to open the imperial decree. Now the Han dynasty is declining, and the Han dynasty has fallen into the hands of thieves. Hearing that Ma Teng, a descendant of General Ma Yuan of Fubua, was virtuous and loyal, and was specially awarded the general of the Western expedition, Jincheng Han Sui was resourceful, coordinated the Han Qiong, and was specially awarded the general of Zhenxi and entered the capital to serve the king. In short, it's just a sentence. I need your protection now. I give you an official position to protect me. It's that simple. After reading it, Ma Teng knelt down for the first time, his eyes overflowing with tears. My Ma family has been loyal and good for generations, and I have heard of the disaster of the Son of Heaven, and I feel the same way, and I will swear to repay it with my death. Han Sui pulled his lips, but Ma Teng did this. He had nothing to say, and knelt down and vowed to repay with death. Since both of us are willing to serve the Han dynasty to the death, why don't we become brothers and end this endless battle? The Qiong and Han people are all brothers. How about it? Ma Teng looked at Han Sui with blood-red eyes and said, Okay, since you and I both contribute to the Han dynasty, then we should be brothers, and this endless war is shedding unnecessary blood. Let us end this endless war. Han Sui seemed to be moved by Ma Teng and said, You and I work together, and we will be able to save the Han dynasty from overturn. Okay. Ma Teng laughed and said, We will burn incense and worship the heavens and become brothers, and then we will go to Yongju to defeat Li Yi and Guosai and save the Han dynasty. Chapter 272 The Declining Imperial Power. Not to mention what Ma Teng and Han Sui, two guys with their own ghosts, think, but these two are really sworn to each other, and they are really older brothers, and the younger brother is short, which is called an affection. Meng Qi, when you will be your uncle in the future, you have to treat him with courtesy. Ma Teng patted Ma Chao on the shoulder and said. Ma Chao stared at Han Sui with wide eyes. My nephew is worthy of being a young hero, and I think he will definitely do something big in the future. Now Han Sui can't see the cynicism he had before. He looks like a loyal elder who cares about his nephews, and Ma Chao is stunned when he sees it. What is this? In the future, our brothers will work together to fight against the national thief and support the Han family to save the Son of Heaven. Ma Teng said righteously. Okay, support the Han dynasty and fight against the national thief. Han Sui echoed. After a lifetime, he finally got an official position. Chao, order Ming to quickly turn around and transfer troops to Longxi. Successive Qiong people, ready to save the Son of Heaven. Ma Teng said triumphantly. Yang Ming, you also quickly organize the army. The Son of Heaven is still waiting for the rescue. We are waiting for you to lead the troops to reach Anding Gaoping within 10 days. Brother Shoucheng and I will take a step there to wait for your arrival, and explore the situation in Yongju first. Han Sui said with a smile as if he had really entered the role, and there was no longer the tense situation when they met before, and it seemed as if he really planned to continue with Ma Teng. Speaking of which, Han Sui and Ma Teng are still very magical. Originally the two sides had a lot of hatred, and they fought in Shiliang for more than a year, and many of their men died. As a result, a false edict made the two of them peaceful, and in order to prevent the other party from holding back when they went on an expedition, they learned from the Central Plains people and became brothers. Originally, there was nothing to do with this kind of righteous brother who had different opinions and different paths. After fighting this battle, it was a matter of course to punch and kick each other, but Li Ji and Guosai were too fierce, and almost abolished Han Sui and Ma Teng. It's a pity that these two unlucky guys had to lick each other, and after a long time, they really had some real feelings, and the Battle of Yongju completely made them understand. For those heroes in the Central Plains, the two of them only had a little hope of holding a group, so they no longer engaged in civil war. Instead, they hugged each other and warmed each other, and the little things in the past were revealed, and the relationship between the two sides actually began to heat up. In Jiaoshu, when Liu Yi received the imperial decree and delivered the information to Jincheng, in fact, Ma Tang and Han Sui had already set out with nearly 100,000 people, and the team dominated by the Shiliang Iron Cavalry could not help but be Ma Duo in Liangzhu. There are many Qiong people. Ma Teng is more convincing to the Qiong people, and there is Han Sui, who is wiser than the gods in the eyes of the Qiong people, so how can he not hug such two good thighs? So when Ma Tang and Han Sui sent troops, there were only more than 40,000 people, but along the way, the Qiong people who came from with food and clothing gradually expanded the team to 100,000, like Cheng Yin, Ma Wn, Liang Xing, and so on. Some brought 3,000 to 5,000, and some came with 80,000 or 10,000 to participate in the new Qinwang conference. Recognize Ma Teng as the leader of the alliance, Han Sui as the military division, and his soldiers are willing to mobilize for it. Speaking of which, this group of people is not because they are loyal to the Han dynasty or anything, it is entirely because this group of people know that Ma Teng and Han Sui have reconciled, and if they don't surrender quickly, there will be no good days in the future, so all these people appeared in the new Qinwang army. However, it was precisely because the group of landlords in Shiliang went, and they were all crippled by Li Yu and Guosai, which led to the fact that the forces of Ma Teng and Han Sui did not perish after this time. After all, everyone was broken. Let's say that more than 90,000 people in Ma Teng falsely claimed to be 100,000, this is the gap, and they rushed towards Yongju, and before they arrived at Zuofengli Chang'an, Li Yu had already received an urgent report, and he suddenly became popular. Ado, that barbarian Ma Teng actually dares to trouble us. Damn, the little emperor dares to shadow us behind our backs. Li Yu looked at the information in his hand angrily and scolded, and immediately buckled the black pot on Liu Xie's head. Let's go into the palace and choose a noble lady to humiliate that guy. If he wasn't the prime minister back then, how could he ascend the throne? Guosai, as a senior general from a bandit background, didn't know what was written in the newspaper at all, but he affirmed Li Ji's words. If the prime minister hadn't helped the little emperor up, who knew where this guy was now, but he didn't expect to dare to make trouble for them now. Let Zhongji and Pan Chou deal with the two bastards Ma Teng and Han Sui. Guosai was extremely disdainful of Han Sui and Ma Teng. The two of us went into the palace and asked what the little emperor wanted to do. How dare you have an affair with foreign ministers? And don't you take our two auxiliary ministers seriously? Look at how fierce these words are, and directly ask the emperor why he had an affair with foreign ministers. There should be no problem, although Ma Teng's guy has more troops, but in terms of strength, our Shiliang Iron Cavalry is far stronger than their boastful Shiliang Iron Cavalry, but it's a pity that the military division and Mr. Jiao are missing. If they are there, we don't need such trouble. Li Yu scratched his head and said, although he was literate and knew a lot compared to Pan Chou and Guosai, but compared to Jiaoshu and Liao Yu, he could only worship as a heavenly being. Alas, the military division and Mr. Jiao, why were we not in the city at that time? Guosai also said with a regretful face, the two of them have now found that the affairs of the court are not as simple as they thought before, and they may not be able to do it by force alone, and there are too many flowery intestines in it. Forget it, let's go to the palace to warn the little emperor and let him be more peaceful. If he dares to find trouble for us, what should we do with ado? It seems that there is no other way but to sleep with the little emperor's woman in front of the little emperor, and the little emperor's soft egg, sleeping with his woman. He doesn't dare to say anything. There is no good way at all. Why don't we kill some ministers? Guosai is also a little helpless. The little emperor can't kill. As for sleeping the little emperor's concubine, I don't know how much this kind of thing has been done. Cholera harem, this kind of thing, since Dongzhuo has been doing it like that, but so far who cares? The little emperor neither dares to be angry, nor does he dare to say anything. The loyal ministers with some ability have been killed, and the incompetent loyal ministers are not good at all except for giving heads. That is, with blood. It is completely useless. Good idea, shock those guys, in front of the court, and we will kill whoever is not pleasing to the eye. Li Yu proposed, I have long felt that this group of guys is annoying, and killing a few to scare the little emperor is considered waste use. I think it's okay to kill Yang Biao first. Guosai immediately stared at Yang Biao, who was the Grand Commandant. He always felt that this guy was so annoying, although this guy didn't do anything, but he had a feeling that as long as Yang Biao was killed, there would be no bad things in the court. When the Prime Minister killed Yuan Kuei, it caused Yuan Shao to attack wildly, and if he killed Yang Biao this time, it would not be good to anger Yuan Shu. Li Yu still has a bit of an impression of the relationship network of the Han dynasty, and has not forgotten that Yuan Shu's wife is Yang Biao's daughter, and the Yuan family's madness last time really scared Li Yu and others. If it is not necessary, Li Yu still doesn't want to provoke the Yuan family. Okay, just choose a few and kill them when the time comes. Let Yang Biao take a look at it when the time comes, and remember to splash his blood. Guosai thought of Yuan Shao's madness at that time, and his heart was also cold. For the sake of Yang Biao to fight that kind of battle again, he would not be so brain-dead, so he gave up this idea without hesitation, and prepared to choose a few ministers to kill him, splashing Yang Biao's blood. Stupid. Wouldn't it be nice to let everyone go? Li Ji thought of a better scene under Guosai's reminder. Chapter 273 The Weak and Explosive 100 Forged Steel. Liu Bei looked at the gift list in his hand and looked at Zhong a little embarrassedly. The previous repair of Fenggao can be said to be an apology, and now this gift list is a bit like taking advantage of the Zhen family. Madam doesn't have to be like this, Liu Bei said with emotion. I heard that Liu Shijun wanted to build an academy, and the Zhen family was very prepared and willing to build an academy in the Qingju area of Taishan for Liu Shijun for free, and the so-called food and accommodation subsidy for my Zhen family was also willing to continue. Zhong said with a smile, it doesn't cost much to build the academy, and it doesn't cost much to donate some seats and benches. So what is it for those little ghosts to have breakfast and lunch in the academy? The servants of the Zhan family are more than 10,000, and if you raise more, what is there? Not too much expense can be exchanged for Liu Bei's favor. Drizzle, drizzle. When this plan was handed over to the elders of the Zhen family, the members of the older generation of the Zhen family did not take it to heart. It is said that now the older generation of the Zhen family is conspiring with the Mi family, the Wei family and several other big businessmen to figure out how to get the business regulations done and make profits for the Zhen family. This is not good, the cost is a little too big, and I'm sorry for the Zhen family. Liu Bei shook his head and said, he could hear that the Zhen family was well-intentioned, but the Zhen family couldn't bear this cost. Xuanda Gong underestimates my Zhen family? Zhong opened the velvet fan to cover half of her face, and a smile appeared in the corner of her eyes. I really want to see how much this expense is. Liu Bei smiled bitterly. In his opinion, Zhongshu was obviously making a mistake of being too confident. I don't know the exact number, but Zichuan said that it is impossible to carry this family alone. In that case, please ask Xuanda Gong to give a number at that time. The Zhan family also wanted to contribute to the prosperity of Xuanda Gong. Zhong squinted slightly. Chen Shi would not mess around with Liu Bei, so he said he couldn't do it, so it was not a joke. Don't worry, madam. Liu Bei picked up the tea and took a sip. Zhong's mouth under the velvet fan curled with some dissatisfaction, then got up and bowed to Liu Beiing, and then slowly withdrew. Zhong's feelings are really keen. Chen Shi shook from behind the screen and said, but why should I hide? She will hide when she sees you coming. When you see her coming, you will hide and continue talking about what happened before. Liu Bei pointed to the seat on the side and motioned for Chen Shi to sit down and continue. In addition to the Yunchang department, the Z department, the 3 soldiers of the Xuangao department have not returned, and the navy itself does not need to be adjusted, and the other troops have completed the first batch of discharges and are being reorganized from the Tuncheon soldiers. The Urban Management Brigade, composed of veterans over the age of 32, has been selected. After a few days, the sacrifice of the fallen soldiers can be reorganized. Chen Shi explained what he had dealt with during this period of time. Liu Bei nodded repeatedly and sounded very satisfied, but after a while, he hesitated and said, actually, Zichuan, you don't need to re-prepare new weapons. Probably you haven't observed the weapons carefully. So to speak, the spear made of 100 forged steel is not as sharp as the standard spear used by a soldier for a year. It is also not as tough as the standard spear. How can it be? Chen Shi asked puzzled. He was still going to dig coal to change the clothes of the elite troops. How could such an unreasonable situation occur? To put it simply, internal qi is the nature of weapons and armor, which is why Yunchang and Ai's weapons are also made of magnium iron, but now we can easily cut through those newly forged iron weapons. Liu Bei thought for a while and said, from this point of view, the standard weapons of the soldiers have far exceeded 100 steelmaking in essence after a year of use. Chen Shi was speechless. There was still such a situation. Such a coal mine can only be used to make honeycomb coal. My steel products are super god plan. Because of this, there will be no large-scale replacement of the regular army, because each update is equivalent to abolishing the lethality and defense of the regular army, which is why most of our soldiers' weapons are repaired, rarely replaced. Saying that, Liu Bei took out a standard sword with many gaps from the top of his bookshelf, and then found a horse-cutting sword that Chen Shi was preparing to promote, only to see a slash, and the horse-cutting sword made of 100 forged steel that Chen Shi had high hopes for was easily cut in half. Look, that's it. Generally speaking, this is the case with weapons. Of course, the weapons forged by some masters in special methods may be far sharper than the weapons that these soldiers have used for more than 10 years as soon as they are born, but that kind of weapon obviously cannot be promoted on a large scale. Liu Bei threw the standard broadsword full of gaps on the table, sighed and said, if that's the case, where did our previous equipment come from? Chen Shi asked curiously. The sword of cutting horses is useless, and he is now more concerned about how those high-quality weapons came from before. New weapons, so they are very bad, which is one of the reasons why a new recruit is easy to be crushed by the veteran when he is a new recruit. The weapon gap is too big, which is why I will not allow soldiers who have not been trained for a year to go to the battlefield, because the gap between weapons and equipment is too big. Liu Bei said helplessly, there is such a reason, recruits are completely waste. Chen Shi speechlessly picked up the standard broadsword full of gaps. That is to say, these weapons can only be repaired, and cannot be returned to the furnace to be rebuilt? Yes, there is no problem with repairing, but the weapon rebuilt back is completely new. Liu Bei said helplessly, so for any prince, weapons are trouble, and it is said that the equipment of the Han Dynasty Yulin Guard has been passed down from generation to generation. Chen Shi was instantly shocked. If according to Liu Bei's one-year pig iron standard sword, it could cut through the horse-cutting sword made of 100 steel, then the Yulin Guard equipment Ma Kai, which had been educated for 400 years, would probably become an artifact. Liu Bei may have also seen Chen Shi's shocked eyes, waved his hand and said, it's not as exaggerated as you think, everything has a limit, whether it's ordinary iron, chlorium iron, 100 refined iron, meteorite iron, as long as it's still iron, then the final limit is one thing, and it can't become something else. Oh, it's completely unnecessary to change clothes like that. Just provide the weapons used by the predecessors, right? Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and asked. The weapons of the predecessors are simply not enough. This is the biggest trouble. After all, as long as a weapon is raised, it will be discarded if it is not used for a long time, unless someone can raise the weapon to the level of having a spirit in the legend, but that is just a legend. Liu Bei said helplessly, I haven't heard of anyone raising a weapon out of a spirit in the past few hundred years. Who blew this idea? Chapter 274 Zhong is a good choice. That's the thing, your horse-cutting sword is good-looking, but all of them are dressed up as horse-cutting swords. Our army will have no combat effectiveness for more than a year, and the thing of raising weapons is faster on the battlefield, and those who have inner strength can also be faster, but most people who can't eat enough don't have the guts, and a horse-cutting sword is estimated to have the level of this knife for a year and a half now. Liu Bei was extremely helpless when he said this, although he was also optimistic about the horse sword, but he couldn't do such a thing as changing clothes and sending him to death. He was too brain-dead. Oh, that's nothing. We tens of thousands of Tuncheon soldiers can just send weapons and armor to raise them. Just like raising Tuncheon soldiers, we just need to raise some weapons and equipment. Chen Shi looked like, why didn't you tell me earlier? Liu Bei was directly dumbfounded. Why did he never think of such a simple thing, to send weapons and equipment to the Tuncheon soldiers? And when the time comes, it will be good to raise the weapons and put them away and send them to new ones. This matter is recorded, but if you say so, isn't Cao Mengde developed? Yuan Shu's 100,000 army let him attack the back road and lose his helmet and armor, and those equipment were put on Cao Cao. Wouldn't Yuan Shu be useless? Chen Shi suddenly remembered what happened not long ago. In this situation, if Yuan Shu really loses so many armor and weapons, even if Yuan Shu's great cause is great, it will probably not be comfortable. Liu Bei silently wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. If he wasn't careful, he might really not notice. It's really troublesome to say that. Chen Shi frowned and said, which is equivalent to saying that Cao Cao had exploded a lot of high-level weapons from Yuan Shu in the previous battle, and now Cao Cao is completely beyond the level of a newcomer. This means that it is at the same level as Liu Bei's equipment, or even better. Sure enough, people are not rich without windfalls. It seems that some local tyrants must be dealt with. Yes, Cao Mengde is an ambitious person. Liu Bei also remembered chatting with Cao Mengde when he was at Hulao Pass before. Xuandagong, let's talk about how long it will take for those weapons to return to their original state after they are separated from the internal qi supply. I also make preparations. Chen Shi sighed. There was no need to be jealous of Cao Mengde, and he calculated steadily. Generally speaking, even if the weapon is separated from the soldier's use and the internal qi is provided, it will return to normal things in about a year. But even if it does not have the same good nature as before, it has also been improved before. And the second time is much faster than the first time. If the first time is used for a year, it will return to normal. But waiting for someone to warm up later, it can save about half the time. Liu Bei thought for a while and said, of course, this is only at the level of ordinary soldiers. Oh, I'm relieved to have these. Like a general, we don't need to worry about it. Just like the third brother's weapon is generally never separated. Chen Shi was relieved after Liu Bei could mention this time for a year, and Chen Shi also understood that for the soldiers, the warming of weapons in the future was still effective, but it was far less than the speed of the previous year. Then what do you plan to do then? Liu Bei asked curiously. You must know that Chen Shi has prepared Chongkai and Dadan for these urban management, but now it is obvious that it is not needed. Then don't change clothes. Just wear their previous equipment. Chen, she said helplessly. The equipment that was originally bright enough to dazzle other people's eyes is now only one way to give up, which is completely cumbersome. A wooden shield that has been used for 3 years can put your big iron shield back, and it can be light. But just let them carry the big shield you worked so hard to make, and it will be almost ready in a year. Liu Bei smiled and said, anyway, the task of urban management is not heavy. Let them join the ranks of leveling equipment. That's all there is to it. Chen, she said helplessly, he has no good way to encounter this kind of thing. The active energy of this world, too domineering, directly crushing technology. What 100 steel making is weak. What blast furnace iron making is weak. What is blowing oxygen, Baochu steel is all weak and explosive. If you are a well-educated person, you can stab an eye in your tower shield with a wooden gun, and the science and technology tree will mislead the country. What do you think of what Zhong said? How about giving it to her? After thinking for a while, Liu Bei returned to the question Zhong asked before. This depends on what Xian Degong thinks. Chen Shi lifted the teapot and poured tea for Liu Bei and himself, covering his expression. What do I think? Liu Bei looked at Chen Shi puzzled and asked. If Xuandegang did this, it would be nothing, but what the Zhen family did would be a bit out of place, not to mention how Jizhou is. Just say that these students were all educated by the Zhen family. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said, of course, I believe that Zhong has not thought about this, and he will never mention the relationship between this matter and their Zhen family at that time. Liu Bei thought about it slightly and understood what Chen Shi was taboo, nodded slightly and said, in this way, I can only push away the kindness of the Zhen family. Only in this way will it be beneficial to both parties. It doesn't need to be like this. Chen Shi shook his head and said, at that time, Xuandegang naturally doesn't have so much time to deal with this matter, and the most suitable person must be Mrs. Gan. I mean, if Xuandegang is interested in Zhong, then leave this matter to her, it's okay. Chen Shi's words made Liu Bei's old face turn slightly red, and he waved his hand and said, how can you be mixed with private feelings? This is a business matter. Sichuan still finds another way, and the Zhen family's kindness is nothing to shirk. I'm telling the truth. Xuandegong, if you really have feelings for Zhong, Zhong is actually a good match, and it is normal to remarry, and some things are left to Zhong to deal with, so there is no need to think as thoughtfully as before. Chen Shi said helplessly, he wasn't so bored to show off and test Liu Bei's ideas. Liu Bei didn't reply, but Chen Shi's words could be regarded as tickling his itch, just like Guan Ping was interested in the official eunuch lady in trouble, and Liu Bei was interested in the noble and graceful Zhong family, which was an inevitable situation. Zhong, as a woman, can hold the power of the Zhen family, in addition to appearance, origin. In fact, the ability is also quite outstanding, except for some short-sightedness, but now she has been hit by Chen Shi once, not arrogant or impatient, and has a strong attraction to Liu Bei in the case of steady work, but the attraction is the attraction, and Liu Bei will not do this kind of thing that harms the family. Xuandegong, if you have a heart, there is nothing wrong with handing over this matter to Gan and Zhong. Although Liu Bei was hesitant, sometimes hesitation was a statement, at most because there was no way to have the best of both worlds. Liu Bei pondered for a long time and asked a very strange question to Chen Shi. Sichuan, do you think Zhong's youngest daughter Zhenmi is beautiful? Chen Shi was stunned. What kind of divine twist is this? Liu Bei wants to kill it. It's not like that. You must know that Mi Zhan sometimes wore a female official uniform and dangled in front of Liu Bei, and I didn't see Liu Bei have any special interest. More often it was like looking at his niece's expression. And now for a little girl who is younger than Mi Zhan, Liu Bei is very beastly? Just kidding. Liu Bei stared at Chen Shi for a long time, nodded, and then said with a smile, you don't have to worry about Sichuan, I can solve it myself. Chapter 275 Let's Fake. Zhuge Liang, an all-rounder, sometimes doesn't understand, not to mention Chen Shi, naturally doesn't know what Liu Bei thinks, but since Liu Bei said he didn't need to worry about it, then Chen Shi will not intervene. Liu Bei is generally very self-aware as long as his brain is not burned. In short, he knows what he should do and what he is good at under normal conditions. With Liu Bei's guarantee, Chen Shi didn't stay with Liu Bei for long, and after a few words, he didn't wait for Liu Bei to serve tea and send off the guests. Chen Shi left by himself. Don't look at Chen Shi going around every day. In fact, he has a lot of things. After Chen Shi left, Li Yu came in and watched Liu Bei drink tea there with a happy face. What happy events does Xuandegang have? Can you talk about it to Wenru? Wenru sits here. When Liu Bei saw Li Yu come in, he pointed to the seat opposite him and said, what do you think of Zhong's person? Li Yu instantly understood what Liu Bei was thinking, and at this time he naturally greeted him with good words. Zhong herself is a lady, capable and graceful, and she is a good match. Of course, Li Yu didn't say this nonsense. As far as Liu Bei's identity is concerned, it doesn't matter if he marries a concubine, even if he recruits the world, but if he marries a wife, he is much more cautious, not a wealthy family, not a knowledgeable person, and a non-master, and these conditions are all suitable. I heard that Sichuan, a guy who regards women as nothing, was once moved by the little daughter of the Zhen family. But is there such a thing? Liu Bei asked another irrelevant thing, but Li Yu was not an inexperienced guy like Chen Shi, and he instantly understood the implied meaning of Liu Bei and Liu Bei's true thoughts. There is really such a thing. I think Mi Zizhong had told me about this matter as a joke while he was drunk, and Sichuan was indeed moved by the little daughter of the Zhen family. Li Yu said with a smile on his face. That's good. Liu Bei said with a smile, as long as Chen Shi was moved, he would be relieved. As for what is right for the family, Liu Bei will not take it to heart. Chen Shi's potential is huge, which Zhong recognizes very much. To say that Li Yu was only 80% sure before, now it is real. Liu Bei wants to take advantage of Chen Shi, okay? In other words, Liu Bei wanted to make his relationship with Chen Shi closer, and Liu Bei was not unwilling to marry Zhong if he could still use this hand to get closer to Chen Shi. That couldn't be better. But Xuan Dagong is not suitable at this time. Li Yu looked at Liu Bei with a smile on his face and pointed out that the current situation should not marry Zhong. I know, but there are some things that should be planned early, just like Sichuan always takes one step and looks at 3 steps, and occasionally I should learn it. That's right. Wanru. Are you ready for Sichuan's congratulatory gifts? Liu Bei nodded, unwilling to spend more time on this point, so he changed the topic. It's ready. Li Yu didn't delve into the matter of Liu Bei marrying Zhong. After all, this matter was too good for Liu Bei. Thinking about Chen Shi's ability, just for a little Li Yu felt that there was value in marrying Zhong. The golden cauldron is prepared. Liu Bei asked a confusing question. It's already made. Li Yu replied, in fact, he wanted to say that the 2 tripods of the Shenyuan Yellow Emperor ordered by Chen Shi had been forged, and as for the copper, it came from there. Then he couldn't tell him, but he knew better that these words needed to rot in his heart forever. Including when Chen Shi asked again, he didn't know. It is said that after the Shenyuan Yellow Emperor defeated Kai Yu, he cast 3 tripods to sacrifice the heavens and the earth, which was the predecessor of the 9 tripods of Emperor Yu, and then the middle tripod was picked up by Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty, and the remaining 2 were naturally gone, so Chen Shi hinted to Li Yu to make a fake bury it, and it would be nice to let people dig it out when the time came. And he even thought about the place to bury it. Li Yu was directly frightened by this crazy idea, and then looked at Chen Shi's eyes a little weird. Chen Shi, who could hint that he was doing this kind of thing, was definitely not a good thing. Li Yu could guarantee this. But then again, it doesn't matter whether Chen Shi is a good thing or not. Li Yu knows very well that this trick is indeed sharp enough. Buried for a few years after being old, digged out, holding the Shenyuan Yellow Emperor, the 2 tripods of heaven and man, this is really the destiny of heaven. You must know that if this thing is true, it is much sharper than the jade seal. When the 9 tripods were complete, there was no jade seal, and it was precisely because the first emperor lost the jade seal that the jade seal was made. That is to say, in terms of authority, the 9 tripods are greater than the jade seal, and the 3 tripods of the Shenyuan Yellow Emperor are more than the 9 tripods of Emperor Yu in terms of authority. Holding this kind of thing is enough to rebuke the emperor. As for Chen Shi, he hinted that Li Yu would bury these 2 tripods somewhere in Jizhou, and there would be an accident or something, so that Yuan Shao and Liu Bei would get 1 each, and then a big battle would make the 2 kings of destiny divide the winner, and the winner would get all the destiny or something. For this proposal, Li Yu almost didn't think much about it. As for what Chen Shi said was so obscure, he also knew the reason. As for the danger, there was a danger, but in terms of benefits, it was not a joke. After all, if it really causes a great war between the 2 princes, and it represents the dispute between the 2 tripods of heaven and man, then the dispute over authenticity can be put aside, and to that extent, no one will doubt the authenticity of the treasure that caused the 2 princes to fight. The bonuses in terms of morale, public sentiment, etc., obtained by the winner are even more terrifying. You must know that Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty obtained the Shenyuan Baoding and directly changed the era name to the Yuan Ding without saying a word, which shows how important this thing is in the eyes of the ancients. Li Yu is not a decent gentleman, and his mouth is also very tight. This kind of cost is very small, but he likes the plan that is enough to create a huge advantage, so he took over this job, and now the 2 cauldrons have been forged, but the more troublesome thing is to make it old. But there is still a lot of time, he has time, and then find a place to bury it after arriving, and then let Liu Bei's generals go to fight an evenly matched field battle with Yuan Shao's subordinates, and then burst out those 2 cauldrons. Those things are much simpler for Li Yu. The most troublesome thing for him is actually how to reasonably appear these 2 tripods in a reasonable place, to stand up to the verification. What he has to do now is to be Liu Bei's secretary, while consulting ancient books, comparing maps, and finally quietly burying these 2 things in the right place. In short, this matter had nothing to do with Chen Shi when Li Yu took over. How to do it, how to bury it, how to hide it from others. It was all Li Yu's business, and it had nothing to do with Chen Shi at all. Thinking of this, Li Yu couldn't help but smile. Chen Shi's plan gave him a feeling of always having a sense of wantonness, so that he had a feeling of jumping out of existing thinking to think. This way of thinking was a great inspiration for Li Yu, or a feeling of sudden enlightenment. Chapter 276 Merits and Demerits. Although the road was groggy, it was indeed safe to return to Yuju, but it may be that the fever time was too long, and the loss was a little too miserable. Gongsun Zon obviously had some irritability tendencies, and his thinking was not very normal. Report to the Lord. Tai Shizi brought Gan Xingba here. A herald rushed in and reported loudly. Since the separation from Gan Ning, Cabbage has gone directly along the river to the north, and Tai Shizi does not have the scruples of Gongsun Zon. Since they have been separated, Tai Shizi has to continue to follow the route agreed with Gan Ning before along the Zhong River, and he plans to save Gongsun Zon after he is safe. After all, Gongsun Zon's move without saying goodbye is for Tai Shizi, even if he is unwilling to think deeply, but he still hurts his feelings, plus he is a friendly and not a subordinate. Tai Shizi is too lazy to be a nanny for Gongsun Zon. Life and death are settled, and besides, he himself has been seriously injured in order to protect Gongsun Zon, and he can be regarded as doing his best to be benevolent and righteous. Cabbage walked all the way along the river, down the water, and met Tai Shizi about the next night. Although Tai Shizi was a little curious about why only these few small broken boats came to pick him up, but he still didn't ask anything superfluous, and transferred directly to the boat. After all, there was no navy in this place in Jizhou, and it could be regarded as completely safe to get on the boat. Although Tai Shizi didn't ask, how could Cabbage not know Tai Shizi's thoughts, so he told what happened during this period of time with a wry smile. Yuan Shao, who was forced, had to return to the army because of food and grass. What about Xingba now? Tai Shizi asked curiously. I led 100 people to rob Yuan Shao's camp. Cabbage said helplessly. Tai Shizi directly spat out a sip of wine. Is this a human thing? Just when Tai Shizi was about to ask. A naval officer came over, Marquis Jun. A brother found that the boss's ship was coming here, and he didn't find the pursuers. The boss should have succeeded. General Taisha takes a break. I'll go meet my general. Cabbage glanced at the pawn, and the habits of the Jiang bandits have not been washed away until now. I'll go with you to see Xingba. Tai Shizi put down the wine bowl. I want to see what is different about this Gan Ning, who seemed out of tune before, but had an amazing performance on the battlefield. It's okay. Kalen bowed and then led the way to Tai Shizi. The little ones. Your supervisor is back. Welcome me. The Ganning people have not yet arrived, and the arrogant voice has already appeared on the river. Cabbage was helpless. His young master was really embarrassed. It was simply embarrassing. He was still scolding his subordinates for not changing their anger before. First of all, he himself did not have the style of a general. Xingba, come and let me see how you, the guy who burned the Handan granary, is different from before. Tai Shizi said loudly. Ha ha ha, Zi is also here. Gan Ning laughed, turned over and jumped into the river, and a few jumps fell on Tai Shizi's seat. I not only burned Handan grain and grass, if it weren't for Yang Liang blocking me, I would have killed Yuan Shao. But even so, I cut off his handsome flag. I am a master of 100 cavalrymen and 10,000 troops. Gan Ning said rampantly, robbing the camp and coming back safely. When he got on the ship, Gan Ning thought about how to tell his brothers when he went back, which was a real record. It's embarrassing not to brag about it. You're amazing. Tai Shizi gave Gan Ning a thumbs up. After all, if he was put in Gan Ning's position, he felt that it seemed unlikely that he would be able to do such an unrestrained thing. It's easy to say. Gan Ning waved his hand proudly. He himself is suitable for people to stroke their hair, like Tai Shizi, who does not involve any jealousy. He likes it the most. How can he say that the other party is also a master? Tai Shizi looked at Gan Ning's arrogant expression and thought about himself, and consciously understood why Gan Ning was in charge. He was just an excellent general. Tai Shizi led more people than Gan Ning, and he did not do as much as Gan Ning. This is the gap. Ha! Why didn't you see General Gongsun? Gan Ning boasted for a while before thinking about why the other protagonist was gone. Tai Shizi told what happened during this period of time, and suddenly Gan Ning's brows twisted into a pimple. Gan Ning was not stupid, but he was unwilling to think, and naturally he could see that Gongsun Zon was wrong. Forget it, let's look along the river. If we can't find it within 10 days, let's go back to Yuju. Anyway, the White Horse General is blessed. Gan Ning said with an unhappy face. The psychology of not being very satisfied with Gongsun Zon has now become even more unhappy. In the next 10 days, Gan Ning searched carefully, and finally determined that Gongsun Zon did not take Tai Shizi's word seriously, and found the defeated army, or the situation asked by the deserter was that Gongsun Zon went north. Where could he go north? It must be Yuju. Gan Ning belongs to the typical type of love and hate. Since Gongsun Zon doesn't treat them as human beings, he doesn't bother to continue to care about Gongsun Zon, and without saying a word, he sails back to Yuju to wait for news, whether he is dead or alive, to give an explanation.
Let them in. Gongsun Zon's face turned cold. Foreign generals Gan Xingba and Taisha Zi have seen General Gongsun. The two came in and bowed to Gongsun Zon and said, "It turns out to be two generals. I don't know what the two of you are going to tell them." Gongsun Zon asked strangely, especially dissatisfied with Gan Xingba, "Since you are also on the battlefield, why didn't you burn Handan grain and grass earlier? Why do you have to wait until I defeat you to burn grain and grass?" Gan Ning naturally felt the malice of the generals of Yuju towards him, raised his head and sneered, "Not to mention the righteousness of the two of us coming from thousands of miles to help. Z saved the general from danger. I desperately burned the Handan granary to give the general a glimmer of life. I didn't want the general to say goodbye first, and now how to deal with it?" Gan Ning is a second-class goods. He can't say soft words at all. In his opinion, merit is merit, mistake is fault, there is merit, there is a punishment. How can he wrong the hero? "How dare you do this? Where are the generals? Take down this maniac for me."
Gongsun Zon was stunned for a moment. His face was ashamed, and then he roared with a burning face in anger.
"HMPH. Who dares to do it?"
The explosion of amazing inner energy on Gan Ning's body directly suppressed all the people present. "Gongsun Buague, I was ordered by Xuandagong to save your life, and so is Z. Don't think highly of yourself. Now that the two of us have completed our military affairs and plan to leave, do you want to stop me?"
Gan Ning sneered and said, "And let you know how powerful I am and the two of you."
Gan Ning didn't wait for Tai Shitsi to stop him, and casually waved towards the roof, and the entire roof exploded directly, and then the ripple-like tremor directly destroyed the entire house. Gan Ning pulled Tai Shitsi out and directly buried Gongsun Zon and others inside. Chapter 277. It's just a matter of getting used to it. Gan Ning grabbed Tai Shitsi's arm and took the other party a few jumps over more than 100 meters, and then turned into the alley, without giving the Gongsun infantry stationed outside a little time to react, and when Gongsun Zon and others came out of the ruins in a rage, they could not see the shadow of Gan Ning and Tai Shitsi long ago.
This article is written by Starting. Search for me, find Gan Ning and kill without mercy.
Gongsun Zon roared angrily, and he had made up his mind to kill Gan Ning who dared to provoke him.
"Lord, no."
Qian Kai immediately jumped out to stop and said, "Gan Xingba is a general under Liu Xuanda, and he has indeed helped us a lot. Although he provoked the Lord, why doesn't the Lord turn a blind eye to show leniency?" Gongsun Zon glanced at Qian Kai coldly, then turned his head to look at the sky in front of him. "Where do you put me like this? And wait until I catch Gan Ning and hand it over to Liu Xuanda, and ask him to understand." Qian Kai was stunned. How could Gongsun Zon be like this?
"Report, Lord."
Just as Qian Kai was about to speak here, a herald rushed over. "Lord, General Zhu has come to report that the soldiers stationed outside Zhuojuan have run out of food. Please urge the governor to release the grain, otherwise it may cause a mutiny."
"What?
Liu Bowen, an old man, actually dared to stuck my grain and grass. The generals will follow me to see that old man Liu Bowen." Gongsun Zon was furious, and instantly left Gan Ning's matter behind him and said to everyone. Qian Kai breathed a sigh of relief. In his opinion, Gongsun Zon was so whole by Gan Ning before, but it was a little difficult to step down, and now with Liu Yu such a step, he went down the steps. Thinking of this, Qian Kai couldn't help but secretly scold Gan Ning for being ignorant. Previously, things could be done as long as they were soft, but now the two sides have a thorn. Gongsun Zon may not know what the situation in Yuju is in front, but Qian Kai in the rear knows very well. Yuju is indispensable for Liu Bei's continuous grain and grass, although the amount is not much, but it is persevering, which shows that Liu Bei has no bad thoughts about Gongsun Zon. In that case, why should he offend his strongest comrade in arms for the depressed anger in his heart? Impatient to live? Of course, Qian Kai is not exonerated for Gan Ning. After all, in Qian Kai's view, since Gan Ning can burn Yuan Shao's grain and grass, why didn't he do it early, but dragged it out until Gongsun was defeated, which made Qian Kai very dissatisfied. Similarly, the generals of the entire Yuju had such an idea after learning about Gan Ning's record. Lord, Liu Bowen is a trouble after all, since we are now stationed in Zhuojuan. Unlike. He only proposed the idea of second-hand goods, but everyone present was eager to try it. I have long seen that Liu Bowen is impatient, and this time he not only secretly passed on information to Yuan Shao. How dare you stuck my grain and grass? Gongsun Zon's eyes flashed with a touch of madness. Shan Jing's proposal is very much in line with his current way of thinking. On the other side, Gan Ning grabbed Tai Shisi and hid in a small courtyard several times in a row, and when he entered the city, there were only Gan Ning and Tai Shi. As for the others, they were sent by Gan Ning to contact most of his navy, saying that if it weren't for these two people, Gan Ning would not be so manic.
Xingba, how can you talk to General Gongsun like this?
As soon as his feet landed, Tai Shi directly grabbed Gan Ning's arm and threw Gan Ning out, for his previous actions.
Tai Shi's belly is on fire. HMPH. What qualifications does he Gongsun Zon have to deal with me?
Gan Ning was thrown out by Tai Shi and turned over in the air to adjust his posture, and said with an arrogant face after landing. Not to mention that if it weren't for me, he might have been captured by now, and his head was hung on the flagpole, only saying that I saved him was on the orders of the Lord. I am a courtier of Duke Xuanda, not a courtier of his Gongsun Zon.
He is old.
But we are allies. Xuanda Gong relied on General Gongsuan's talent too.
Tai Shi couldn't continue.
That's before. I also heard about the Tiger Prison Pass, but it's just 3,000 or 5,000 infantry and cavalry. So what can I do to return it to him? If the former general on the white horse who shocked the outside of the Great Wall to protect the safety of the party, I would be aggrieved. Gan Ning sneered again and again. Look at the current Gongsun Zon. Does he still have the spirit he used to have?
Doubt us. What is he with his virtue? Xingba, calm down.
Although Tai Shi has also gone to school and read books, he is completely on the same level as a cultural hooligan from a family like Gan Ning, and he was directly speechless by Gan Ning, and he could only try his best to calm Gan Ning down. Forget it. Be kind as a donkey's liver and lungs, and I will never help again. What does Gongsun Zon have to do with me? Gan Ning said with an unhappy face. Let's find a time to go directly at night. I originally said that I would buy some fur such as white foxes and white deer in Yuju and give it to the lord and military strategist as a gift when the time comes, and now the good mood is all ruined. As soon as Tai Shi wanted to say that he still had something to do, Gan Ning changed his face and asked with a smile, when did you say the military division got married? Exact time. The last time I left, I thought I didn't catch up, but isn't it postponed now?
No one told me when. Leap November 28th.
Tai Shi thought for a while and said, Oh, there is still a lot of time. When the time comes, you and I will catch a Kuan and give it to the military division. The last time I killed a Kuan to the end, Ming Yuzhu was eaten by a group of bastard fish before it was born. How about you and me this time? Gan Ning came up with a crazy idea. He was going to kill the divine beast. Tai Shi smiled bitterly. This one is really bold. He dares to kill anything. That is a mythical creature. If he encounters a powerful one, maybe even if there are two of them, it will not be good. Xingba, I still need to stay in Zhuojuan. Wait for an opportunity to take Liu Born away. Tai Shi said helplessly, I came to Yuju with two tasks. One is to protect General Gongsun, and the other is to take Liu Bowen away when General Gongsun is about to kill Liu Bowen, and now my mission is not over.
Well, I'll be with you.
Gan Ning thought for a while and said, that Kuan is really powerful. If I am alone, the fleet will sink half of it. I will be sure with you and me. The bright moon pearl is the right pearl. How about we send one as a gift at that time? It looks like Gan Ning is on the same as Kuan Mao. It's okay, we have fallen out with General Gongsun now. With you, it will be much easier when the time comes to escape. I hope General Gongsun will not station too many crossbowmen on the city wall at that time. Otherwise the clouds will be connected, and it will be troublesome for us to kill out.
Tai Shi sighed and said,
Don't worry, Gongsun Boigue doesn't have many subordinates now. If you want to kill Liu Bowen, you definitely can't mobilize his subordinates wantonly. That is, there are so many people now, he doesn't have so many archers. We will hold Liu Bowen by one arm at that time, and jump a few jumps and go out of the city. Well, but you need to pay attention. When Gongsun Zon will do it, I will transfer my navy in place.
Gan Ning said with a familiar look.
Tai Shi looked at Gan Ning and waved his hand a little uncomfortable when he saw Gan Ning. Familiar with it. After all, I used to mainly do this. Just a professional habit of keeping an eye on big people or something. Chapter 278 Violence and Royal Submission with Violence. Gan Ning took Tai Shi to buy some things and put on makeup 3 or 2 times. And then Gan Ning found a restaurant on the 2nd floor and sat down in an elegant room with a view of the county governor's mansion. Chapters are updated the fastest. Look, it's that simple. As long as you sit here, you can see the county governor's mansion. With our eyesight, it is naturally clear. So don't worry, as long as there is chaos inside, we will go in. Gan Ning knocked on the window and said proudly. He didn't know how many times he had done this kind of thing. Tai Shi looked at Gan Ning and sighed. Should I say that there must be professionals to steal chickens and dogs? Xiao came to some wine, lamb meat, roe deer meat, some of which were on the top. Gan Ning howled loudly. The wine should be warm, and the meat should be tender. Okay. Xiao's voice appeared outside the door, and soon the meat and rice were served, and after the wine and meat were arranged, they asked with all hands, What else do you want from the 2 strong men? Our broth here is good.
and it was good to drink it that day. Rice? This thing is not energetic to eat. There are steamed buns. Give me 10 or 8 first. Gan Ning stared at the bowl of rice in the sea and asked. I'm sorry for this, we've sold out the steamed buns. There isn't much wheat in stock to make steamed buns, and the millet noodle steamed buns are gone. Xiao said helplessly. Since Chen Shi brought the steamed buns to the dinner table, this food quickly swept the north and south of the country. But unfortunately there are not many wheat plants, and the steamed buns are not very good if they are pure millet noodles. Oh, then some hot soup. It's really cold in your place. Gan Ning said a little unaccustomedly. Okay. Xiao walked down with the plate. After Gan Ning and Tai Shi were full of wine and food, Gan Ning found Xiao again. Holding an iron pick, he said while picking his teeth, I said that your restaurant has a place to live, and your family cooks well. I don't want to move the place. If I have a place to stay, I will stay here, leave this place for us when I eat, and recommend a hotel to me if I don't have a place to stay. Saying that, Gan Ning took out a gold bead and threw it to Xiao, and as soon as he started Xiao, he understood what this thing was, although this kind of thing was not considered a circulating currency, but all merchants recognized the value of this thing. Yes. There is an upper room in the back. Xiao said with a happy face, like this kind of high roller, the reward given will not be a small number. Come to 2 houses. Which fur in your area is good? I have a friend who is getting married. I plan to bring some gifts back. Which one has the treasure of the town store level fur? Gan Ning asked another question. This word. There are many fur shops in our area. But the only one that can be called the best is the Chen family's fur shop, and I don't know about the treasure of the town store. Xiao thought for a while and replied. You go down. Let your shopkeeper prepare some barbecue spirits for us to eat in the evening. Gan Ning arranged like a normal foodie. Okay. Xiao nodded and replied, and then slowly pushed back. Look, Zi, it's that simple. A lot of things will be done with a little money, and you don't need to squat carefully somewhere to keep an eye on it. But then again, this place in Yuju is really cold, and it is estimated that it will freeze in another month. We have to hurry. Gan Ning said with a happy face, but a cold wind blew, and Gan Ning suddenly felt a little unaccustomed. It depends on the past few days. I think General Gongsun can't bear Liu Yuju for a few days now, alas. Tai Shi said with some emotion. Gongsun Zon's performance really hit his confidence. Whatever he wants, we just have to do our own thing, and the rest has nothing to do with us. Gan Ning waved his hand and said, he was completely disappointed in Gongsun Zon, and he no longer had the admiration for the white horse Gongsun Zon who shocked the northern frontier like before. Liu Yu can be said to be in a very good mood after learning that Gongsun Zon was defeated by Yuan Shao. You must know that he himself does not recognize Gongsun Zon's blood and Yuan Shao's ideas. Of course, he does not approve of Yuan Shao's approach of annexing Han Fu, not to mention the old officials of the Yuan family. Everyone with a discerning eye knows what is going on. However, compared with Yuan Shao, a guy from a family who still talks about etiquette, Liu Yu is very dissatisfied with Gongsun Zon. In his opinion, Gongsun Zon is a pure warrior, and he uses violence to control violence in any situation. First of all, Liu Yu is not allowed to use violence to control violence, but in his opinion, if he can deter the enemy, then it is best not to destroy the other party. As for the so-called virtue of good life in God, it is all a lie. Don't destroy the other party. Let the other party survive is to let the other party witness their own strength, in order to let the other party sing praises to themselves. Show the courage of a big country. Zhu destroyed the Shang dynasty and did not cut off the merchant sacrifices. Why do you need to kill the other party to the end? From this point of view, Liu Yu actually didn't have any good intentions for foreign races, but because of Gongsun Zon's quick effect, Liu Yu was slow to integrate foreign races into the Han people, and subtly merged foreign races, and he couldn't see any effect in a short period of time, which seemed to be very good to the Hu people. Liu Yu's approach definitely needs to be stable. Let the Hu people naturalize into the Han people, let the Hu people envy the life of the Han people, let the Hu women marry the Han people, and let the Hu people beat the bachelors. In short, this set of strategies all need a stable and harmonious atmosphere under the rule, and it is precisely because of this that Liu Yu's Yuju is actually not bad. But after Gongsun Zon appeared, today this piece of Hu people disappeared, tomorrow the Hu people evaporated, and the day after tomorrow another piece of Hu people disappeared. Liu Yu's policy of educating foreign tribes and making foreign tribes completely subordinate to Wang Hu was directly abolished. After all, under Gongsun Zon's White Terror, it was impossible for Hu people to live with peace of mind and marry their daughters to the Han people. This is also the root of the contradiction. After that, Gongsun Zon became more and more ferocious, and he abruptly played a battle loss ratio of 1 to 20. And in the end, the Hu people didn't say they saw Gongsun Zon, even if they heard Gongsun Zon. This is also the root of the contradiction. After that, Gongsun Zon became more and more ferocious, and he abruptly played a battle loss ratio of 1 to 20. And in the end, the Hu people didn't say they saw Gongsun Zon, even if they heard Gongsun Zon, they would take a detour, not to mention the Hu people where the Han and Hu lived before, and the Han people were gone.
There is no such thing as grey in Gongsun Zon's eyes, and the tribes living in the Han and who are also the forces that should be cleared and suppressed in Gongsun Zon's judgment, which led to Liu Yu and Gongsun Zon completely falling out, and there is nothing to talk about at all. Liu Yu's goal was to mix the Han and Hu and then silently merge the Hu people, and as a result, Gongsun Zon now even killed the Han people who lived together as traitors.
Can Liu Yu accept it?
From that time on, Liu Yu pulled Gongsun Zon's hind legs. Gongsun Zon has popularity, and Liu Yu is not bad, and the two sides are 5 or 5 in terms of popularity. After all, Gongsun Zon is not a god army who can't be taken back after playing in the north of the Great Wall, and it is normal to disturb the people, although Liu Yu made it clear that this kind of behavior is actually normal. But the two of them have formed a beam, who will turn a blind eye to you, seize the opportunity and not fight to death. Today, your Gongsun Zon returned from a great victory, and tomorrow it will be rumored where your soldiers are harming the people, and all these things can be verified on the spot. Chapter 279. Finally at this point. Just like this time, Liu Yu can be regarded as Gongsun Zon has not appeared, and people eat their own reserves of grain and grass. As far as reason is concerned, Liu Yu is not qualified to guard Gongsun Zon at all, but Liu Yu is the governor of Yuju and has the greatest power in the land boundary of Yuju. Now that Gongsun Zon is sad, Liu Yu estimated that he touched his little arms and calves, and then estimated that Gongsun Zon, who was bruised all over his body by Yuan Shao, was sure that he had fallen into the well and Gongsun Zon had nothing to do with himself, so he planned to educate Gongsun Zon on how to behave. It can be seen that in fact, Liu Yu is also wilted, but Gongsun Zon has never given Liu Yu a chance to perform before.
Lord, General Gongsun is here to visit.
Wei Yu walked in slowly and said to Liu Yu, speaking of which, he was considered the main in faction, and he was deeply helpless about the conflict between Gongsun Zon and Liu Yu, and had always hoped to reconcile the relationship between the two, but unfortunately some things would not be transferred by human will.
Bring him in, Liu Yu said with a gentle face.
For Wei Yu, Liu Yu deeply felt that he was pedantic, but he was moved by his will, and Wei Yu could be regarded as one of the few capable ministers under him who were good at governing one side. So although Liu Yu was not satisfied with Wei Yu's frequent persuasion not to be an enemy of Gongsun Zon, he never punished him, but more often used Wei Yu as an object to show his generosity and benevolence.
Hey!
Wei Yu retreated as soon as he clasped his hands, and Yang Ru, who was standing aside at this time, walked up with his hands clasped.
Hui Wen, what's the matter with you?
Liu Yu saw Yang Ru stepping forward, so he asked.
Lord, Gongsun Buigui is just a warrior.
Appearing in Zhuojuan, there are only more than 1,000 soldiers outside, and I am willing to kill him for the Lord.
Yang Ru knelt down on one knee and said solemnly.
He admires Liu Yu very much, and is naturally willing to get rid of his troubles for Liu Yu.
No.
Liu Yu stopped Yang Ru at the first time. In his eyes, he and Gongsun Zon were both Han ministers, although they had different political views, but they could not be killed at will, even if they were dissatisfied. At most they captured Gongsun Buigui. Sending it to Chang'an is decided by the emperor, and killing ministers without authorization is a traitor. In that case, the Lord might as well let me capture Gongsun Buigui for you. Listed his crimes, tied up and sent to Chang'an, although the number of troops in Zhuojuan was not too many, but there were more than 10,000 of them. How could Gongsun Buigui's more than 1,000 remnants escape?
Yang Ru's mind is very flexible. Naturally no Liu Yu's thoughts.
So he retreated to the second way, and the whole person exuded strong self-confidence. No, it's not to this extent. If Gongsun Buigui's carelessness fails here, Yuju will inevitably suffer. Liu Yu waved his hand and said, after all, the current Gongsun Zon is already on the chopping board in his opinion. Why take that temporary risk?
Yang Ru stepped back.
There was a little unwillingness in his eyes, but he didn't say much. He admires Liu Yu precisely because of Liu Yu's demeanor. Gongsun Zon pushed Wei Yu away with a dark face and walked in directly with his men. Looking at Liu Yu who was kneeling at the top, Gongsun Zon's anger rose, but his years of experience as an official still kept him a little sensible.
I've seen the governor.
Gongsun Zon bowed his hands to Liu Yu. How to say that he was Liu Yu's nominal subordinate? Liu Yu sneered in his heart, but his face was the gentleness of an elder. General Gongsun has worked hard. Sit down. I don't know which you people have been exterminated this time. He said sit down, there is no couch around. Without waiting for Gongsun Zon to reply, Liu Yu knocked his head as if he were old and confused. Oh, look at my memory. There are no Hu people in Yuju recently. General Gongsun has begun to use the heads of the Han people to calculate meritorious deeds. I don't know which family has been ruined and killed this time to make meritorious deeds.
Liu Yu mocked in a strange way.
I don't know why the governor deducted my grain and grass. Gongsun Zon took a deep breath to suppress the anger in his heart, and glared at Liu Yu and went straight in. There are many people displaced in Yuju, and I don't know who made their families ruined, so I had no choice but to open the warehouse and release grain and reduce military spending. Liu Yu was not afraid of Gongsun Zon's murderous vision, and looked directly into Gongsun Zon's eyes and said, "My Gongsun Zon's grain and grass, all collected by myself, when will they be returned to the governor of the state?" Gongsun Zon said angrily, "I rule Yuju, when will grain and grass become your thing? When did my people under the rule of the Han dynasty become your Gongsun Zon's private property?" Liu Yu angrily rebuked, and stood up directly after a few cases. "How qualified are you to recruit so many soldiers? Just a Dongzhuo false order. You dare to do this, really think that there is no one in my Han family? Liu Yu is a man, how dare he do this?" Gongsun Zon said angrily, striding forward, as if he was going to rush towards Liu Yu, and actually dared to take the opportunity to cut his military power. How could this be bearable? Gongsun Boguei is dead. Yang Ru was furious and drew his sword directly. "Where are the guards from all directions? Take down this group of rebels who have committed the following crimes." "Cut me down, Yang Ru." Gongsun Zon, who was angry, was about to cut Yang Ru with a sword, but he didn't want to be hugged by Qian Chou, so he roared at everyone around him. The guards guarding outside heard the movement inside and quickly rushed in to surround Gongsun Zon and the others. "Stop! Stop!" Wei Yu rushed in and yelled, and Liu Yu also scolded with a gloomy face. "Hui Wen, step back." Liu Yu glared at Yang Ru and said. Gongsun Zon's generals confronted Liu Yu's guards with swords, but under Wei Yu's persuasion, the two sides finally eased. "Gongsun Boguei, there is no food, and countless people have been displaced under Yuju because of your expedition to Jizhou, and I have to use every stone of grain to help the people." Liu Yu shouted sharply. He carefully weighed that it was impossible for his guards to take down Gongsun Zon, so he could only retreat. He knew very well that the two sides showed their weapons this time, which meant that they could not be reconciled. "Liu Yu, you remember." Gongsun Zon stared at Liu Yu intently, and then turned around and ordered the generals without hesitation. "Lord, how can you confront Gongsun Boguei with a real sword and a real gun?" Wei Yu asked with a bitter face after Gongsun Zon left. Lord, please allow me to mobilize troops. Today's matter, Gongsun Boguei will definitely not give up. We have to be on guard early." Yang Ru half knelt in front of Liu Yu and said with a sneer, very disdainful of Wei Yu, "Go." Liu Yu didn't say much, just waved his hand to signal Yang Ru to leave, and then a hint of joy flashed in Yang Ru's eyes. He had long seen that Gongsun Zon, who had been making trouble for Liu Yu, was not pleasing to the eye, and Liu Yu was pressed before. This time it seemed that Liu Yu finally couldn't stand Gongsun Zon, but he didn't wait for Yang Ru to withdraw before he heard Liu Yu's words, "Don't disturb the people under your rule. Leave Gongsun Zon with a life. Send him to Chang'an. Gongsun Zon is willing to surrender and leave his life, and no longer pursue it. The Lord is benevolent." Yang Ru sighed, and then slowly withdrew. "Lord, does it have to be like this?" Wei Yu asked in despair. "Gongsun Boguei is too presumptuous." Liu Yu angrily threw the cup out. Chapter 280 Liu Yu, can you still scrap it? Gongsun Zon left Liu Yu's residence and returned to the place where he lived. Looking at the ruins, his face was completely distorted, and Gongsun Zon, who originally had a little reason, was completely angry. Anger rose in his chest, and evil was born on the side of his courage. "Let's go. Go to the barracks." Gongsun Zon stood in front of his collapsed house and took a deep breath, and drove his horse towards the military camp outside the city. Read the latest and most complete novel. Gongsun Boguei went to the barracks. Yang Ru was stunned for a moment, and then overjoyed. Isn't this giving him a lever? How can we not preemptively strike now? And Gongsun Zon went outside the city, so he didn't disturb the people. Wouldn't everything be fine if more than 10,000 troops surrounded Gongsun Zon? Thinking of this, Yang Ru's original intention to report to Liu Yu also faded. In his opinion, Liu Yu was too benevolent, and he would inevitably give Gongsun Zon a way out, so this would have no effect at all for an unrepentant guy like Gongsun Zon, and could only let Gongsun Zon escape punishment again. Thinking of this, Yang Ru's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. Since Liu Yu couldn't make this determination, then he would complete it in place of Liu Yu, and when he was punished by the Han court, he abandoned his official position in advance and fled, and ran to the place of the Hu people in the northern part of the country. Just do it. I will take this opportunity today to help the Lord get rid of such a scourge. Yang Ru made up his mind, and then ordered his men to go and prepare. See the Lord. Zhu Dan clenched his fists and bowed. Gongsun Zon glanced at Zhu Dan and did not reply directly, but walked towards the Chinese army tent with his men. Shichi, what's going on? After Zhu Dan got up, he asked Guan Jing, who pulled himself to his side in a low voice. Guan Jing sighed and told all the things that happened that day,
and Zhu Dan's beard and hair were all open. The eyes are blood red, and the Lord humiliates the minister to death. Gongsun Zon walked into the big tent and just sat down. Zhu Dan got up and knocked his head on the ground, looked at Gongsun Zon with blood-red eyes and said, "Lord Dan, please fight to the death. I often hear that as a minister, the king is worried about the minister's labor, the king is humiliated and the minister dies. Now the Lord is humiliated, and the minister is the same as him, and he is willing to fight to the death." Zhu Dan is playing for real. Everyone has some die-hard loyalists, and Zhu Dan is Gongsun Zon's die-hard loyalist, and he is angry at Gan Ning and Liu Yu for humiliating Gongsun Zon and Zhu Dan so much. "I wish I could eat its flesh and drink its blood." After Zhu Dan spoke, the others couldn't be shrunken turtles, and they all stood up and roared, "I ask for battle." Although Gongsun Zon was angry. But the head is not confused. Now this is in Zhuojuan, belonging to the center of Liu Yu's sphere of influence. There are more than 10,000 local garrison troops alone, and he himself has only more than 1,000 veterans. How can he fight? "You step back, let's talk about this later." Gongsun Zon directly vetoed his subordinate's proposal, although his head was a little confused before. But normally, he still has a bit of the demeanor of a general on a white horse. "Lord." Zhu Dan knelt on the ground and cried. Guan Jing helped Zhu Dan up and took him out of the camp. For him, he didn't want Zhu Dan to be punished by Gongsun Zon. After all, everyone with a discerning eye now knew that Gongsun Zon was not Liu Yu's opponent, and the difference in strength was too big. After Zhu Dan got up, he didn't say a word, but silently carried his knife on his back and walked to the rear camp. That night, Yang Ru ignored Liu Yu's general order and directly led his army to surround Gongsun Zon's barracks, and Gan Ning and Tai Shizi, who learned the news, were a little dumbfounded. "Zi, what should we do at this time?" Gan Ning sat in the restaurant and looked at the torches of the brigade outside the city from a distance and asked, "Gongsun Buague wants to kill Liu Bowen. We should save Liu Bowen. Now Liu Bowen is obviously much stronger than Gongsun Buague. What should we do if we want to kill Gongsun Buague?" This. Tai Shizi was also a little dumbfounded. Liu Bei's order was not to give Gongsun Zon a chance to make mistakes. Let Tai Shizi take the opportunity to bring Liu Yu back. Now this situation is the opposite. Liu Yu wants to kill Gongsun Zon? It seems that the military division is not omnipotent. Gongsun Buague did not kill Liu Bowen, but was going to be killed by Liu Bowen. Gan Ning spread his hands, learned Chen Shi's situation, and said helplessly, this is not within his scope of responsibility. He can only watch the excitement indifferently. As for Gongsun Zon's life and death, he has nothing to do with him. Let's take a look first. The other party is now an army, and it is not easy for me to kill in alone. Tai Shizi said helplessly, I can only ask General Gongsun to have a good life. If he doesn't die at the end of the time, I will help him depending on the situation. Tai Shizi is wise to protect himself. Clever. Gan Ning gave a thumbs up. Gongsun Zon, surrender quickly. I will spare you from death. Press you to the capital to face the saint. If you dare to resist, kill without mercy. Yang Ru drove his horse and went directly to Gongsun Zon's barracks and shouted loudly, as for Gongsun Zon not dying, what are you kidding? As long as Gongsun Zon dares to surrender, he will immediately betray his trust and righteousness to eliminate future troubles for Liu Yu forever. Let Liu Born come out to see me. I don't believe your words. Gongsun Zon was a little soft, but he still had a little brain, knowing that he could not surrender to Yang Ru, and even if he surrendered, he should surrender to Liu Yu. He, I take care of everything on Sunday. How can you be a traitor who commits a crime like you? Gongsun Zon, let me ask you again, surrender or not? Yang Ru unceremoniously mocked Gongsun Zon. Let Liu Born come out to see me. Under the eaves, people had to not bow their heads, and Gongsun Zon, who had always been proud, also became cowardly at this moment. It seems that they are unwilling to surrender, and the whole army is charging. Yang Ru sneered, and then he directly issued an order for second-hand goods, basically relying on his mouth and having never experienced war. Yang Ru is dead. At the moment when Yang Ru sneered, Zhu Dan, who originally planned to assassinate Liu Yu at night, struggled to throw the shotgun at Yang Ru. Yang Ru was surprised to see the shotgun flying from the front. When did he experience this kind of battle? When he went to the battlefield for the first time, he didn't think about using his sword to pick up the shotgun, but used the horse skills he learned from the Hu people for the first time, turn over and fall off the horse. I saw Yang Ru turn over and dodge the direct shotgun, but the handsome flag behind her did not have such a flexible movement, and was directly pierced by a shot. To say that a large army is often trained, and the handsome flag is constantly warmed, it should be as strong as steel, but Liu Yu soldiers have almost not undergone any training, and the handsome flag is just taken over and used when fighting. This scene directly silenced the audience, and then Zhu Dan roared, the enemy General Yang Ru is dead, you all kill the enemy with me.
Then he jumped out of the camp directly with a big knife as the first person, and cut several people in front of him into 2 sections with a knife, and suddenly Gongsun Zon's morale was high, and Zhu Dan's original preparation of hundreds of soldiers to kill Liu Yu's family with him was like a tiger into a flock of sheep. In a few breaths, Liu Yujun began to flee, and then without waiting for Yang Ru to react, it became a big rout, and there was a sound of crying father and mother everywhere, and Liu Yu's men wanted to give themselves 2 more legs. Gan Ning almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood when he saw a scene. Can this Liu Yujun be abolished a little more? Can it be a little more shameful? Tai Shizi and Gan Ning both saw the bitter smile in each other's eyes. According to this rhythm, Liu Yu is dead. Chapter 281 Yuju is over. Gan Ning covered his face, and Tai Shizi poured all the wine on his body without realizing it. Is this a war? It's too waste. The military strategists probably guessed how much waste Yuju Mu's men had. The chapter is updated the fastest. Gan Ning muttered, really can't bear to look at the situation outside the city. Let's take Yuju Mu now. Tai Shizi's face twitched and said, a general is incompetent and exhausts thousands of troops. It's useless. Gan Ning looked at the Yuju army that had already rushed into the city gate and began to trample on it. If this is my subordinate, kill 10% first and then train, the country's money will train such miscellaneous things. But I think we still want to think about how to leave when the time comes. Your ships have been summoned by you, and I'm not sure if we will leave safely by land. Tai Shizi also looked helpless, and then remembered his mission. Compared to rescuing Gongsun Zon from the 10,000 troops, it was still not difficult to rescue Liu Yu from hundreds of people, but it was more difficult to take it out. Take one step at a time. Maybe it's easy. Gan Ning's famous optimistic faction said that there was no pressure. When the time comes, grab a few horses, tie up Yuju Mui and leave quickly, and it will not be easy for Gongsun Boague to find it. Tai Shizi listened to the chaotic footsteps downstairs and the roar, and knew that Liu Yu was definitely powerless. His subordinates were too useless. This was not the level of miscellaneous soldiers, this was simply the level of lambs. Liu Yu, who was resting in the county governor's mansion, heard a scream inexplicably and sat up suddenly. Husband, what's wrong? Liu Yu's concubine felt a cool breeze sweeping by, opened her eyes, saw Liu Yu get up, rubbed her eyes and said, it seems that there is a sound of fighting outside. Liu Yu put on his shoes and walked out without wearing a coat. The master is not good. Liu Yu had just stepped out of the door when he heard the miserable voice of his old servant. Why is that? Liu Yu said with slight dissatisfaction. Oh no, sir. Gongsun Zon's troops led Zhu Dan to kill in. The old slave said loudly. He is looking for death. More than 1,000 people dare to provoke me under the nose of our army. Is Gongsun Boague confused? Liu Yu said with a sneer. I was even more disgusted with Gongsun Zon in my heart. Sir, Zhu Dan has defeated most of our army led by General Yang. The old slave said in horror, Master, it's better to run away from here quickly. What? How is that possible? Liu Yu was surprised. How could his more than 10,000 elite soldiers be defeated by Zhu Dan, an unknown junior, under the leadership of the General Yang Ru? Where is Yang Ru? Liu Yu said angrily. Master, General Yang is afraid that he has already been poisoned, so he should leave here quickly. The old slave said with a panicked face as he listened to the shouting and killing sound outside getting closer and closer. The hundreds of soldiers led by Zhu Dan are not far from here. Hundreds? Liu Yu was stunned for a moment, and then he was overjoyed. It's just a few hundred soldiers. Why panic so much? Take my armor. I want Gongsun Zon to understand that the conspiracy and trickery for a while will not be on the table at all. Master, no. Liu Yu's old slave persuaded loudly. Compared to Liu Yu. The old slave who was Liu Yu's servant knew better the difference between Liu Yu's pampered nursing home and Gongsun Zon's iron-blooded soldiers who came down from the battlefield. Get out of the way. Liu Yu pushed away his servant with a calm expression, strode towards the main hall, and began to order his guards to guard the gate. In his opinion, Gongsun Zon dared to do it in Zhujuan, and when the people reacted, they would take Gongsun Zon and send it to him. General, Liu Yu's gate has been blocked by a large number of guards. I will lead the team to rush up and exterminate them. A military marquis saluted Zhu Dan. Maybe before tonight, they didn't recognize this general who stayed behind in the rear, but after this night. All the soldiers who witnessed this scene were impressed by Zhu Dan's courage. HMPH. Go to the main gate? Zhu Dan glanced at Liu Yu's gate, fearing that there were 500 or 600 nursing homes, and sneered twice. Smash this courtyard wall for me. Let's go in and capture Liu Yu alive. Hey! The military marquis bowed, smashed Liu Yu's outer wall with 3 or 2 strokes, and then led his men to rush in. Attacking the brain-dead thing at the main gate, Zhu Dan, who has a clear brain, will not do it. The guard who almost guarded the gate didn't react at all, and was attacked from the front and back, and Liu Yu was born in the royal family, as the only type of birth that did not need military merit to be a marquis, and did not know how to command the troops at all. A group of people stood densely at the gate, and he stood in the middle, but was directly wrapped in the center by Zhu Dan before and after, and the four sides of the courtyard could not be opened at all, so they could only be slaughtered. Zhu Dan frantically slaughtered this group of nurses. No matter how much the other party was wailing, he couldn't shake Zhu Dan. Under the constant squeezing, hundreds of nursing homes were quickly killed by Zhu Dan's subordinates, leaving only Liu Yu standing among the crowd covered in blood. You can't kill me. Liu Yu met Zhu Dan's crazy eyes, and he was frightened by the splashing blood and instantly woke up, and his whole body screamed in horror like a sieve chaff. You can't kill me. You are guilty of the following crimes. I am a member of the Han clan. I am the uncle of the Han dynasty. You can't kill me. Liu Yu looked at the knife that was slashing at him and roared in horror. Ding! Gan Ning casually deflected Zhu Dan's attack. Tai Shi. Zhu Dan stared at Tai Shi with fire in his eyes. In vain. I thought you and I were allies. Why did you stop me from killing Liu Yu? And you Gan Xingba, you actually dared to act like this before. Formation. Take these 3 people down for me. Life and death are not to be discussed. Zhu Dan was fighting to the death, and after hundreds of thousands of people, the whole person seemed to be sublimated, and a kind of power emanated from Zhu Dan's body, which made his subordinates can't help but feel awe. Gan Ning raised his eyebrows and looked at Zhu Dan's face with a touch of appreciation. No matter whether he knew him before or not, he could face his momentum independently without shying away, which was enough to show his firm will. Gan Ning didn't know that Zhu Dan threatened Gongsun Zon in Yangru. Everyone was afraid. The moment he himself stepped out alone, he had actually let go of life and death. If Zhu Dan's strength had not reached the peak of qi refining into a gang, at that moment he would already be a master of the level of internal qi leaving the body. Hurry up and take down the rebel Zhu Dan for me. Liu Yu seemed to have just reacted, looked at Gan Ning and Tai Shi, who had arrived in the courtyard with him in an instant, and scolded. Compared with his previous face, Liu Yu, a celebrity with unparalleled benevolence, really made people feel hot on their faces.
子义，我可以杀了这家伙吗？甘宁扭头看了一眼刘瑜，瞬间两眼之中流露出来的杀意，让刘瑜颤如筛糠。瞬间刘瑜为了小命就不再言语。重试，错误原因。
Brother Zhu, please tell General Gongsun that I have completed what I promised him. After Tai Shi finished speaking, he grabbed one of Liu Yu's arms. Gan Ning stretched out his hand to grab the other arm, and the two of them exerted their strength at the same time and took Liu Yu several companies out of here. But I don't know if Liu Yu can bear this crazy move and whether he will spit out his intestines. Chapter 282. There are mountains outside the mountains. In order to ensure the respect for the deceased, Liu Bei directly ordered the whole city to fast, and all those who could burn incense prayed 3 days in advance, and went to worship the dead who died on the battlefield 3 days later. This article is written by Starting. Zhuge Liang wore a white robe and knelt in the room to burn incense and pray indifferently, and he was not dissatisfied with Liu Bei's order, but deeply felt Liu Bei's benevolence. Since he came to Fengyao and temporarily lived under Liu Bei's rule, then it was natural to obey Liu Bei's orders, and the same should be true for the soldiers who died in battle. And Sima Yi next door didn't think so. He had nothing to say about Liu Bei's sacrifice to the soldiers who died in battle. In his opinion, this was indeed the only way to win the hearts of the army. But he really couldn't bear the fasting of the whole city so that there was no meat in the restaurant. In Sima Yi's view, if you Liu Bei want to win over the army, then go and win them over. And what is the purpose of pulling them up as merchants living in Fengyao? I can't stand it. Sima Yi slapped the table in the room, and he easily slapped the table into a passionate tune on the battlefield, which seemed reasonable but was actually just venting his dissatisfaction. Zhuge Liang frowned slightly when he heard the sound of slapping the table next door, and when he finished listening to Xiao Ling, he heard the sound of knocking in sync downstairs, and instantly became dissatisfied. This guy was destroying the solemn atmosphere accumulated by the entire Fengyao. To say that Zhuge Jin and Sima Lang are very relieved of their younger brothers. After all, when they went out, they all told their younger brothers not to mess around, and their younger brothers also agreed to stay in the restaurant obediently and not go out. With such a guarantee, Zhuge Jin and Sima Lang went out with confidence. But which one is the fuel-efficient lamp, Sima Yi or Zhuge Liang? Zhuge Liang was a little upset. The two brothers next door, he and Zhuge Jin, had also met each other, and he was upset when he saw the young man who was about his age. To be precise, if he met the proud Pang Tong and wanted to hit Pang Tong, then he wanted to go up and pump when he saw that guy whose head and body were not coordinated. So ignorant of etiquette. Zhuge Liang endured the beat and finished his prayer calmly. Directly carrying the chessboard towards the next door, he wanted to cut the other party. After 3 sounds of bell blocking, Zhuge Liang stood at Sima Yi's door and stopped doing anything. Sima Yi, who was beating the beat and teasing the entire Fengao solemn atmosphere. I don't want to be broken as soon as I get into a good situation, and I feel instantly dissatisfied. Sima Yi opened the door calmly and found that the person who came was Zhuge Liang, who had met him a few times, and frowned slightly. Sima Yi, who was precocious by nature, did not associate with a teenager as old as him. Naturally, when I looked at Zhuge Liang, I had a mentality of looking at a child in it, and when I saw the chessboard Zhuge Liang was carrying, I immediately sneered in my heart. However, although Sima Yi sneered in his heart, he did not show it in front of Zhuge Liang, but he unceremoniously knocked Zhuge Liang down. I don't know how you came here. I heard that my brother was bored here to disturb the people, so I came to play chess with my brother to reassure everyone. Zhuge Liang hasn't learned to be gentle with people he doesn't like yet, so naturally he's not polite at all to this guy who makes him very unhappy. To be honest, he's here to cut the other party. Don't think that you can play with the people if you know a little music. I'm here to cut you. Sima Yi's heart was cold, and he did it very obscurely. Is it something that ordinary people can hear the charm of? However, Sima Yi didn't blush when he was exposed, but he was particularly upset when he was arrogant. In other words, this is still Sima Yi did not meet Zhu Yu. If he met Zhu Yu, not to mention that you knocked on Xiaoling Zhuge Liang to understand what you meant, if in front of Zhu Yu, you knocked to beat Zhu Yu was enough to mock Sima Yi to death. The surname is Sima, the single name is Yizi, and the table character is Zhongda. I don't know what to call my brother. Sima Yi looked at Zhuge Liang, who was as tall as him, and couldn't hold the other party's age. In the lower Langya Zhuge clan, the single name is a bright word, and the table word is Kongming. Zhuge Liang put down the chessboard and said indifferently. Zhuge Liang came to cut Sima Yi, a bastard, naturally too lazy to waste time with him, entered the house, opened the chessboard, and the two sat together. Since Kong Mining's youth is not as good as Kong Ming's black first. After a few small talks, Sima Yi already knew that Zhuge Liang was young, so he said generously, in fact, he was ready to concoct Zhuge Liang. It's okay. Zhuge Liang said with a smile. At the beginning of the first game, Zhuge Liang knew that Sima Yi must be careless, so he made a guy who studied the chess score but did not have his own skills to accompany Sima Yi to play the middle game, and Sima Yi was drowsy. Sima Yi, who was a little distracted, looked at Zhuge Liang in front of him, and as the chess game unfolded, his evaluation of Zhuge Liang rose a few points. You must know that at such an age, it is not easy to hear the meaning of himself in a song, and to be able to understand the chess score, but appreciation is appreciation, and Sima Yi, a child who beat to death, will not be soft. However, seeing that Sima Yi suddenly felt something was wrong in the middle of the chess game, and after a quick calculation, he found that Zhuge Liang was not at a disadvantage, frowned, and took a deep look at the young man in front of him who was smiling and silent, playing with a folding fan. It turned out that not only did he not pay attention to the chess game, but it turned out that the other party was just teasing himself. After that, the situation was completely beyond Sima Yi's expectations, and after the chessboard, which was originally just a 5-5 game, after the middle game, Zhuge Liang held the general trend and directly forced Sima Yi's white chess to death. Sima Yi stared up at Zhuge Liang, who had a calm face, and was furious in his chest, when he was teased by his peers. Sure enough, it's better for me to come again. Sima Yi said with a spring breeze on his face. This time he had already put Zhuge Liang on the same level as him. It's okay, I'm afraid my brother will be too boring. Zhuge Liang said indifferently. This time I'll go black first. Saying that, Sima Yi held the sunspot in his hand and was directly fixed in Qianyuan. Zhuge Liang glanced at Sima Yi. Brother is so strong, how can the first step fall in such a position? Having said that, Zhuge Liang did not dissuade him, and indifferently twisted a piece like a black chess game before and placed it in the upper right corner. Then the two of them went back and forth as if they didn't think about it, and there was no vacancy on the entire chessboard. Sima Yi looked up with horror in his eyes, and he was still at a disadvantage. Then he brazenly turned on his spiritual talent and tested Zhuge Liang. In Sima Yi's heart, piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting are just decorations, and governing the country and stabilizing the world is the real talent and practical learning. I didn't want Zhuge Liang to suddenly be energetic at the moment when Sima Yi's spiritual talent was fully opened, and the spirit that was a little sluggish because he couldn't bear his talent quickly recovered, and as the spiritual talent was empty, only a huge spiritual volume was left behind, sweeping around. Chapter 283 Sima Yi is fully open. Sima Yi was cut by Zhuge Liang and opened his talent as soon as possible. What qin, chess, calligraphy and painting, this is just a decoration. What is really useful is the talent to govern the country and stabilize the world, and what represents the top strategist is the spiritual talent. What chess saint painting saint is weak and explosive, we are not as capable as those Confucian scholars. We are better than real talents and practical learning. Sima Yi's talents and abilities were fully opened under his rampage, and he lived in Fengao, and the talents and abilities of others within a range of hundreds of miles were almost wiped out. The first to bear the brunt was Zhuge Liang, who was named the unified strategic level and incomplete talent was directly blocked by Sima Yi, and then because Zhuge Liang, who was young and could not bear his own talent and was mentally sluggish, was suppressed by his strong spiritual power without spiritual talent, the strong spiritual power directly overflowed, and everything around him was vigorously knocked away. And even Sima Yi was squeezed aside by Zhuge Liang's huge spiritual power as soon as he released his spiritual talent. In other words, if Sima Yi's mental capacity itself is not huge enough, the defenseless impact at that moment is enough to wipe Sima Yi as an idiot. Sima Yi looked at Zhuge Liang in a cold sweat after being squeezed out. He already understood that the young man in front of him was a monster at all. If an ordinary adult top strategist had a mental capacity, then now Zhuge Liang's mental capacity has exceeded that level. You must know that Zhuge Liang is still half the time before the mental volume stops increasing. I don't want Brother Sima to actually have a spiritual talent, and it can erase my spiritual talent. Zhuge Liang's eyes sparkled as he looked at Sima Yi. You actually have spiritual talent. Sima Yi looked at Zhuge Liang in horror. He always thought he was already a wizard in the world. I didn't want to meet a genius younger than him here, but then Sima Yi's heart ignited a raging fighting spirit. The previous lonely and empty mentality was swept away, and there must be opponents in the world. Brother is not bad, he actually sealed my spiritual talent, but that's okay, my spiritual talent is too grand, even if I don't turn it on, my own spiritual capacity can't bear it. You have to spend a lot of time sleeping, so that's fine. Zhuge Liang said indifferently, but in this way, he would not have the spiritual power to grow rapidly. Zhuge Liang's eruption of spiritual power is also because he has been supporting the consumption of his own spiritual talents. Now that there was no spiritual talent, those spiritual power that originally supported the talent overflowed directly. But fortunately, Zhuge Liang quickly restrained his spiritual power, and the whole person sat there with a restrained divine light. Sima Yi knelt down in front of Zhuge Liang. Sima Yi of Hanoi has seen Zhuge Kongming. This time Sima Yi did not have the slightest arrogance. Do you dare to play another game with me? It's okay. Zhuge Liang was calm. The previous two games were a bit clever, and this time the two sides were able to compare their abilities. An hour later, Zhuge Liang saluted Sima Yi with a smile, and then walked out slowly. Click. Zhuge Liang smiled and saluted Sima Lang and Zhuge Jin standing at the door, and then left with Zhuge Jin. Zhong Da. How did you turn on the talent again, and for so long, on such a large scale? After Zhuge Jin and Zhuge Liang left, Sima Lang asked angrily when he entered the door, but he saw Sima Yi sweeping away the previous loneliness. There is no arrogance like before, and the whole person is burning with fighting spirit. Brother, this world really needs opponents to not be lonely. Zhuge Kongming, I remember you. Sima Yi pressed the last chess piece on the chessboard, and the original situation of victory or defeat was swept away. What's wrong, Zhongda? Sima Lang asked curiously. Sima Yi told Sima Lang what happened before. That's it, I have a feeling that sooner or later I will meet that guy on the battlefield, and only in this way can I no longer be lonely in life. Zhuge Liang followed Zhuge Jin and didn't say much, but before he could take 2 steps, Zhuge Liang suddenly felt a kind of fatigue, and secretly scolded Sima Yi for not being able to play, and if he didn't win, he would turn off his talent. Moreover, Sima Yi broke out his spiritual talent because he was defeated by Zhuge Liang, and this sudden disappearance of his spiritual talent stunned the people of Taishan who were working. The moment Sima Yi opened his talent, Sima Lang, who met Zhuge Jin by chance on the road, disappeared directly with his own spring breeze, and Sima Lang, who was originally believed by everyone, directly returned to normal, and Zhuge Jin also suddenly lost the feeling of his mouth hanging in the river, making Sima Lang's wisdom burst out. The two looked at each other, and instantly understood that the other party had a spiritual talent before, but the difference was that Sima Lang knew what was going on. Jioshu, who was studying and deducing the situation in Shiliang, suddenly raised his head in surprise, and Liu Yi, who was simulating the thinking pattern of the generals of Shiliang on the opposite side, also looked at Jioshu in a daze. Can you still use your spiritual talent? Liu Yi asked in a panic. Jioshu frowned, but he didn't panic much. It seems that some people's talents are to restrain us people. How can you have such a talent against the sky? I don't know how long it lasts. Liu Yi frowned and said, now it is much more difficult to deal with it without spiritual talent. It's not in the way. Jioshu indifferently picked up the information in his hand and continued to postpone, although he had no spiritual talent, but he was still Jiao Wunhe, who had no last resort, at most he was slower. Lu Su,
who was sitting in the office of the Government Affairs Office, suddenly got up. "Zijing, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" Chen, she asked, puzzled. I saw Lu Su get up and make a few quick movements in his hand, and then a cloud floated in the sky, and the autumn rain immediately fell on the government hall. Hey, what are you doing when it rains all of a sudden?" Chen, she said, puzzled. "I'm snowing. My spiritual gift is gone." A wave of mental fluctuations swept through my spiritual talent just now, and it was directly gone. Lu Su said in a panic, "Zichuan, don't you feel it?" Chen, she scratched his head. "I don't feel anything. My spiritual talent is still like that, but it feels like I've been tickled just now." Lu Su looked at Chen, she speechlessly, and then calmly sat down and continued to correct official duties. Chen, she was fine, indicating that the power to erase other people's spiritual talents must be limited, not to mention when it will be restored. Even if it cannot be restored, it seems to have no impact on Lu Su, who has always relied on talent to eat. Hey, Zijing, why are you still here to correct official duties for such a terrifying thing as the disappearance of your spiritual talent? Let's hurry up and find the reason. Chen, she is in a hurry that the emperor is not in a hurry, and the eunuchs are in a hurry. On the other side, Fa Zheng was already going crazy. He had just awakened his talent before he had time to wave for a few days, and now it was gone, and he panicked and circled around Liu. "What's going on? My spiritual talent is suddenly gone." "Mine is gone." Liu glanced at Fa Zheng and said casually, but although Liu's expression was very indifferent, he also stopped the government affairs in his hand. You must know that compared with others, Sima Yi's talent has a terrifying impact on Liu, enough to directly defeat a peak all-round strategist into a quasi-first-class panacea. The gap in this. Chapter 284 times have changed. Zhuoxi sat cross-legged in the jingling hall and silently burned incense and prayed. Yu Ji and Zishu both only sent an apprentice over, and it was obvious that there were some inhumane stories in it. Just as Zhuoxi was burning incense and praying, an inexplicable fluctuation swept directly over Zhuoxi, only to see a layer of jade-like divine light appeared on Zhuoxi's body, but it could not stop the ripple. Alas! Zhuoxi sighed, opened his eyes, and poked out his fingers from his wide sleeves and began to calculate. It's really a hero in troubled times, and it's a spiritual talent of this level, which is actually enough to have an effect on us people. But it's also right, we are always human, not immortals. "Master." A Taoist priest in green clothes bowed to Zhuoxi. "Why do you want to stay in this kind of place? Who in the world can compare with your ability? Why should you be invited by Liu Yanji to come to this Mount Tai? We are humans, not immortals. Zhong Jiao thinks that he has become an immortal and has been killed in the end. We just do what we should do." Zhuoxi said indifferently with his eyes closed. "Our spells seem to be extremely powerful, but who can we strike against? The heroes of the world are either for themselves, for others, or for the common people, each of which is a great cause and effect. We can only look at it and not interfere, just do what we need to do." Zhuoxi's apprentice was obviously a little unwilling, and hesitated twice or retreated. "Alas, we are the most carefree in this world, but we are also the least carefree. It seems that the magic is unparalleled, but who can we shoot?" Zhuoxi looked at the huge wordless stele and said to himself indifferently, "There are many things that they can calculate. But so what? Do you dare to tell those who interpret these things? Try it and see if you can stop it." After saying that, Zhuoxi closed his eyes again. Zhuoxi also understands Yu Ji's thoughts, but he didn't take it to heart. When the divine stone had not yet fallen into the world, and they did not see any Taoist interfere with the success of the world when they were countless times stronger than mortals. And now, Zhuoxi felt that if he encountered a military general like Liu Biyu head-on, he would never be able to fall behind, and the times had changed. Indeed, God's restrictions on them are much weaker. But there were also people who were enough to kill them, and when the divine stone had not yet fallen into the world, a Taoist who had been successful in cultivation turned into a giant snake to ridicule Qin Jiang by Qi. They have all been killed, let alone now. Thinking that Zhong Jiao held the Taiping Qing Lingshu in his hand, even a master like Zhuoxi who had practiced for decades could not thwart him, and even the yellow turban wrestlers had thousands of them. It is said that there is no pressure on this lineup to return to the world. As a result, thousands of yellow turban wrestlers were hacked to death, and Zhong Jiao was also beheaded. Not to mention that you have great powers, 300,000 troops are formed under the clouds, you can't use anything, or you use anything to die. After that, with the official opening of the troubled times, Zhuoxi has now seen a lot of spiritual talents that can act on himself, and I don't know if it should be said that the great era has begun. It should still be said that this is an era of bright stars, and people like them should be obediently hidden and immersed in the light. These ideas. Zhuoxi didn't tell any Taoist friends, because he knew that others couldn't listen, and many Taoists thought that Zhong Jiao was too anxious at the beginning, otherwise it would be their world now.
Because of this, Zhuo withdrew from the group little by little and began to wander around, ready to choose a hidden dragon and do what he should do like an orthodox Taoist priest, instead of plotting to usurp the throne. With Zhuo withdrawing from the immortal group, after returning to Lujiang, he found that the world had really changed. This was no longer the world that could be played with one or two hands of immortal methods, they no longer held absolute power. In Yuzhou, he glanced at Lu Biyu from a distance and was noticed by him, and at the moment when Juyu in Lujiang opened his talent, he knew that it could no longer be inhabited there, and the mortals who had been looked down on before were already strong, which made him have a shock, and Zhuo had a feeling that if he faced Juyu and Lu Biyu, he would be limited to him alone because Juyu's talent was fully open. And his IQ had no lower limit and was hacked to death by Lu Biyu. That's really dead, it's not an illusion immortal technique or something. But it's really dead, Lu Biyu can definitely do that much. The divine weapon that already has a spirit will definitely kill him when he cuts his deity. Just when the spiritual wave swept on him just now, Zhuo knew that he could cultivate to this extent and relied on spell deduction to be banned. Sure enough, this era was no longer suitable for them. Maybe the mortals themselves were still very weak, but it was really not a problem to cooperate to kill them, thinking that when the mortals of the Spring and Autumn Qin and Han dynasties did not have this extraordinary power. How many self-righteous immortals were killed by mortals? Alas, since a Xin is destined to follow Yuji, then let him go. If heaven wants to make him die, he must first make him crazy. Zhuo thought indifferently, and then began to chant scriptures on this huge stone steely again. In the carriage near Mount Tai in the east of Yangzhou, Shi Jizai and Chen Kun chatted with each other, although the two belonged to Cao Cao's subordinates, but the interaction between the two was not too much. After Sima Yi's mental wave swept away hundreds of miles, Chen Kun stood up suddenly, while Shi Jizai's eyes burst into a cloud of light. Mount Tai is indeed a good place, and I haven't even reached Mount Tai when such a good talent hit me. Shi Jizai immediately copied it directly when the mental fluctuations swept to his body. There really exists this kind of talent that can block all spiritual talents, and with this trick, if the other party is very strong in itself, just a guy who relies on talent to eat, then it is directly enough to abolish the other party. Shi Jizai was ecstatic, and more importantly, his talent was not blocked. He could still use his talent, but the copied Zunyu's talent had been blocked. Jizai, is your spiritual gift still there? Chen Kun said slightly flusteredly. Don't worry, this is a person's active spiritual talent. The effect is that when you turn on your spiritual talent, all the spiritual talents of others within the range are blocked, so you don't need to be too nervous about the long article. Shi Jizai explained with an inscrutable smile. How do you know Jizai? Chen Kun was stunned. I have a special method, don't worry about it. Shi Jizai still maintained an inscrutable smile, as if he had seen a large number of excellent spiritual talents appear in front of them for him to sieve. Chen Kun glanced deeply at Shi Jizai and didn't say any more, saying that he didn't know what Shi Jizai's talent was, although as far as his feeling was concerned, Shi Jizai's spiritual talent sometimes seemed to be somewhat similar to his own, and sometimes it seemed to be mixed with something else, but now Shi Jizai clearly said the effect of an unknown talent, which made Chen Kun wonder what Shi Jizai's own talent was. To be continued. P.S. Ask for a monthly pass at the end of the month, don't waste the monthly pass. Please help me, let me enter another place in the historical and military classification, I only need one person, please Tilda. Chapter 285 It's so dangerous, it's better to be harmonious. Regardless of whether Lu Su is calm or not, at least she is very interested in the spiritual talent that Lu Su said that erased Lu Su's talent, although that talent is tickling for him, but in the past few days, it has reached the final stage. She doesn't have to worry about not being able to complete the task by then, and he doesn't want to do it for a long time, so he is ready to find the guy who sealed other people's talents. Do you want us to look for it? She said with a flattering face. How to find it? Lu Su asked with a smile. Investigate one by one? She said a little embarrassed. How to troubleshoot? Lu Su continued to ask. She looked at Lu Su speechlessly. Aren't you interested in the guy who sealed your talent? Maybe he will be banned forever. She clearly saw that when he said the sentence forever banned, Lu Su's hand holding the pen shook obviously. It seemed that although Lu Su did not use his talents frequently, and did not go to the battlefield, he did not take his spiritual talent to heart as he said before. On the contrary, for Lu Su, his spiritual talent was very important. There are some things that can be dispensed with, but if they are gone, it will definitely not work, and the mark of being a top strategist has been erased, so it is strange that Lu Su really doesn't care. Lu Su raised his head and stared at Shi for a long time. Then let's go. Can you determine the approximate location of the other party? People must be in Fenggao City. Last time I had a feeling of being tickled. This time the feeling is the same as last time. It seems that the other party has no way to seal my spiritual talent. Shi said with joy in his heart. How do we investigate? Let's talk about it first, as long as the other party has restrained his spiritual talent. We have no way of seeing that he is different from others, and we cannot know by asking alone. Lu Su asked a very important question. This can only be done step by step. Chen Shi laughed. He himself was because he didn't want to finish. That's why I proposed to find the guy who made Lu Su's spiritual talent disappear, and the natural method is to be determined. Alas, forget it, it's okay to go out and add up. If I am the only one who is blocked from talents, it will be fine, but if I block the talents of all of us on our side, it will have too much impact on us. Let's meet with everyone and make sure. In case all of them are blocked, then we should think about how to deal with this situation on the battlefield in the future. Fortunately, the first time we encountered this talent was not on the battlefield in a critical situation, otherwise it would. Otherwise, Lu Su glanced at Chen Shi and said, compared with Chen Shi's heartless behavior, Lu Su has always been calm and reassuring, and he was not shocked by the disappearance of his spiritual talent. Instead, he immediately began to analyze what kind of problems this spiritual talent would bring to Mount Tai, and how to solve these problems. So I said it. Chen Shi frowned after listening to Lu Su's words. He didn't feel anything before because his own spiritual talent did not encounter any problems, so Chen Shi didn't think deeply, and now he was mentioned by Lu Su and instantly found that things were not good. Chen Shi came to this world for so long to figure out how important spiritual talent is to top strategists, and with the future deduction, Joshu, who analyzes things, has absolutely no problem with Joshu, who does not have spiritual talent, and if he really blocks the talent of everyone in Fengao, it will be a big trouble. You won't have such a talent against the sky, right? It is estimated that your talent has been blocked. My spiritual gifts are still working, although I don't really know what my spiritual gifts are. After thinking about it, Chen Shi felt that he should not have such a talent against the sky. After all, his talent is still working, and it is estimated that it can only be aimed at one person. I'm afraid just in case, I've always wondered if there is something wrong with your spiritual talent. Forget it, just ask someone else. After thinking for a while, Lu Su felt that what Chen Shi said was indeed reasonable, so he didn't insist too much, but became curious about Chen Shi's talent. Lu Su and Chen Shi had just stepped out of the door when they saw two heralds rushing at the door, and they were stunned for a moment, and when they looked at each other, a bad idea came to their minds, and their faces instantly calmed down. Report, Jiao Junsha asked the two of you to stay in the government affairs hall for a while, and Jiao Junsha and Liu Junsha came quickly. A herald said to Chen Shi and Lu Su. Report, Li Gong asked the two superiors to wait for a while. He and the Prime Minister of Qi have important matters to report. Another herald said the same. Chen Shi and Lu Su looked at each other, both shocked, and an ominous thought was born in their hearts, but they were both shocked and did not ask each other. Chen Shi and Lu Su returned to the government affairs hall less than a stick of incense, and Joshu and others came together, and then looked at everyone present with gloomy faces. It seems that it is certain that except for my spiritual talent, all of us in Fengao have been banned from spiritual talent. Chen Shi frowned and said, first of all, no matter who the other party is, let's first say how much combat effectiveness do we have in this situation? I'm useless. Li Yu smiled bitterly and said, after blocking my spiritual talent, all my abilities have dropped significantly, and I can't deal with first-class masters at all. Even if I have enough experience, there will be flaws. I'm fine. Fa Zhang said with a wry smile. His talent has not awakened for a few days, and he just feels that he is missing a handy tool, and it has not yet reached that point of indispensability. My own ability has not changed, it has just slowed down. Joshu said indifferently, even if he didn't have talent, it was just a missing increase for him. Some are not used to it, and there are few strategies. Liu Yi said with a wry smile. He used to feel that his spiritual talent that was endless when he thought about it was simply disgusting, but without that talent, he felt that he was missing too many things, and he used to be able to come up with a bunch of strategies at any time as long as he was willing to do so, but now. There is no impact if you don't go to the battlefield. Lu Su smiled bitterly and said, overall, it seems to have a great impact, but it has not completely ruined our advantage. After all, as long as Sichuan Qianshu is in hand, even if we don't have our talent, we are still in a pretty advantageous position, and we will find a way to find that guy. It's only like this, the other party's talent has an oppressive effect on us. Find out the other party's matter and leave it to me and Xiang to solve, although it is very difficult, but a person who can show such a strong talent must be a little famous. I'll check it out. Joshu said calmly. In fact, don't look at Joshu's inattention. In fact, now he already wants to strangle the guy who sealed his talent. Leave it to us. The other party will definitely not be an unknown person. Liu Yi smiled and said, thinking to himself, if my talent is still there, I can analyze the psychology of that guy from multiple angles to do this, and then it is much easier to find it, but this kind of talent that blocks other people's spiritual talents must be kicked out. It is too threatening.
Chapter 286.
An hour of time came and went quickly, and after everyone's spiritual talent recovered, they couldn't help but calm down, and then when they saw the expressions of the other people, they all laughed, but they were just banned for a short time.
It seems that the other party is not very strong either.
Chen-Shi saw that everyone present was trembling and knew what was going on. For a huge war, it would not have much impact an hour after the layout was made.
No, how does Zichuan know if the other party is misleading us?
Jioshu said with a smile, but looking at his expression, he knew that Jioshu didn't think so, but his usual cautious thoughts made him think calmly.
Okay, Xiang, when, and this matter depends on you.
Chen-Shi clapped his hands to focus everyone's attention and said, as for your work, leave it to Wen Yu and Xiaoji to deal with it. Find that troublemaker first, either join or...
A fierce light flashed in Chen-Shi's eyes. Don't worry, I'll take care of it.
Liu Yi said with a smile, but there was a hint of murderous intent reflected in his gentle eyes. For Liu Yi, how could such a dangerous element join them? Isn't this pinching his own life in the hands of others? If the other party accidentally rebels and blocks everyone's talents, isn't that luring wolves into the room? Liu Yi and Jioshu looked at each other, both saw each other's meaning, smiled slightly. Liu Yi and Jioshu suddenly gave birth to a feeling of confidence. If the relationship is iron, then do bad things together, and do a few things to have a common language. Jioshu's ideas are similar to Liu Yi's. He belongs to the kind of type of person who does not stand under the dangerous wall. Then a guy who can make him embarrassed at any time, or even a guy who may take himself into the pit if he is not careful, before there is no countermeasure. Jioshu will never allow the other party to join, and it is not Jioshu's habit to leave all his safety to others. You can use the urban management brigade as you like, as long as you don't run too far.
Chen-Shi said to Liu Yi, the document will be written for you later.
After Chen-Shi finished arranging, he took advantage of Lu Su's inattention and left, since the soldiers of the 100 Battles veteran level formed an urban management brigade in a team of 20 people under the leadership of the Centurion, wearing armor and carrying a broadsword. Patrolling across the big yellow crossbow, the security environment and living environment index of the entire Fengao have increased significantly. This kind of team of veterans who have participated in at least dozens of battles and survived without injury, as long as they are not blind, can see the blood-red clouds on the heads of the team of 20 people. This kind of proper elite level of troops is patrolling, and they are enforcing the law against the regulations. Who dares to be reasonable?
This is looking for death.
These veterans are also butchers who can't even farm, and to be honest, this group of people are murderous. Every time they walk through the commercial street, everyone automatically avoids it. This strong deterrent force simply makes Man Chongji proud. Leading a team to enforce the law, no matter who you are in the background, you will definitely be frightened when you see it, and the law enforcement team wants this kind of majesty. On the other side, Shi Jitsai silently waited until the 10-day cooldown arrived, and then prepared to replace the talent he had grabbed before to determine the accurate talent ability. After all, he had directly erased the Zunyu talent he used before. He naturally knew that this spiritual talent was erased. As for what the exact attribute was, then it depends on him to verify this talent. Shi Jitsai did not feel a very dangerous aura in this talent, just like the talent of Zunyu and others, but there was a sense of rejection that was not very good, rather than a feeling of dying after using it like Guojiao. When the time came, Shi Jitsai replaced Sima Yi's spiritual talent for the first time, and then the next moment Zunyu's talent stored by Shi Jitsai was directly erased, and the next moment his own talent that carried Sima Yi's talent also began to be erased with the opening of Sima Yi's talent. In just 3 seconds, Sima Yi's talent disappeared along with Zunyu's talent, and Shi Jitsai's own talent was also consuming his own spiritual power to erase independently. Well, while generating, erasing at the same time. Shi Jitsai's face twitched. The first time he encountered this situation after using so many years of talent. Guojiao's kind of online can't be used he can still understand, and this talent directly erased the part of his spiritual talent about storage as soon as it was copied, and the next moment he began to erase himself.
This talent can only be stored, not online.
Shi Ji was surprised, but fortunately, I basically obtained all the attributes of this spiritual talent in just a few breaths, and I should know what is going on by comparing the attributes. Shi Jitsai closed his eyes and analyzed silently, and after a long time, he smiled bitterly and opened his eyes. The talent was successfully copied, but after the launch, the essence was still his own talent, but with the attributes of this talent, maybe it was just storage and there was no erased talent, but I opened this talent within myself and the first to kill it must be myself. This talent is really pitted.
Brainlessly block the talent of everyone on both sides of the enemy.
In fact, simply put, Shi Jitsai is equivalent to systematic copying, and Sima Yi is equivalent to systematic deletion. For Shi Jitsai there is no problem that Sima Yi can delete him, but if he dies to copy Sima Yi's talent, it is equivalent to copying the blank. That is, the blank can indeed be copied, but after pasting, it is equivalent to self-deletion. And the poor Shi Jizai is directly deleted from his own stored content. In the same way, Zhuge Liang's talent is equivalent to pasting. No matter what can be pasted, theoretically speaking, as long as the paste is fast enough, the effect of deletion is not visible. In fact, if Zhuge Liang and Sima Yi are both in the period of complete victory, it is purely comparing the amount of spirit. See whether Zhuge Liang is online fast or Sima Yi is blocked fast. If Zhuge Liang's online speed has been greater than the speed of his own opening of Sima Yi's erasure, then Zhuge Liang's online Sima Yi's talent is not impossible. It's a pity that Zhuge Liang's paste is a crippled ability, because the early awakening talent leads to incomplete development, not to mention Sima Yi's talent. Even if he erases the spiritual talent he is using like Shi Jizai, and then his own copying talent can still be used. Similarly, if Shi Jizai's copying talent can withstand the erasure of Sima Yi's talent that he has converted, he will be able to continue to launch Sima Yi's talent. It's a pity that such a good talent. Shi Jizai smiled bitterly. He already understood that this spiritual talent online could not be his own problem. But fortunately there was no loss, otherwise it would really hurt. Shi Jizai's talent is very strong, but it still does not stop Shi Jizai's self-destruct program. After a stick of incense, Shi Jizai suddenly felt a burst of dizziness, and an abnormal bright red flashed on his face, and he could no longer directly launch other people's talents so directly in the future. As soon as this thought arose, a violent dizziness rushed up, and Shi Jizai's eyes darkened and fell directly in the direction of Chen Kun sitting opposite. Chapter 287 The Transformation of Sima Yi. Shi Jizai suddenly fell soft, which startled Chen Kun. If Shi Jizai died like this, how would he explain to Cao Cao? This guy died inexplicably, and Chen Kun couldn't explain it to Cao Cao at all. Just the two of them were in the carriage. No matter how Chen Kun explained this kind of thing, it wouldn't make sense. Even if Cao Mengde was magnanimous and didn't care, this matter was also a thorn. Although Chen Kun said that he was very satisfied with Cao Cao, after all, he was new to the scene, and everyone knew which one Cao Cao was biased to. Hey, hey, hey. Chen Kun was taken aback, held Shi Jizai's arm and roared loudly, "Doctor, hurry up and pass on the doctor." Shi Jizai naturally didn't know how much trouble his fainting had caused to Chen Kun, how many miles he had walked every day as originally planned, and it was the most important thing to hurry up and treat Shi Jizai. At the same time, Chen Kun, who was cautious by nature, immediately sent his men to inform Cao Cao, and then asked Cao Cao to order whether to send Shi Jizai back. In short, this matter must be left behind. Feng Jiao, Zhuge Liang, and Sima Yi of the Mi family restaurant were all taught a lesson by their brothers. Naturally they also knew that the two brothers of the other party were incomparable to ordinary people. Sima Lang was shocked that Zhuge Liang had spiritual talent when he was younger than his younger brother, and Zhuge Jin was shocked that Sima Yi was actually the guy who destroyed his talent. Chapters are updated the fastest. So, that Sima Zhongda can block the talents of us people, and it seems that his spiritual talent can be flawed by your contact. Zhuge Jin frowned and said, "This kind of talent for blocking others on a large scale. I think the entire Fenggao happened not long ago. If nothing else, it should be indistinguishable between friend and foe." Zhuge Liang said indifferently, "After all, even his brother's spiritual talent has been blocked, and he doesn't remember to close such a close relationship. There is only this possibility, but if the talent is blocked and the intelligence of both sides is only evaluated, I am not afraid of him." Zhuge Jin frowned slightly. Zhuge Liang could say things that were not afraid of him, which was enough to show how much pressure the boy who was slightly older than Zhuge Liang put on Zhuge Liang, and the last one to be evaluated by Zhuge Liang should be Pang Tong. Thinking of the boy whose body and head are not coordinated, Zhuge Jin may be a little big-headed when he fights with Pang Tong in wisdom, and he can now stabilize Pang Tong's head because of his age and experience. But Zhuge Jin clearly knew that at most 2 or 3 years, his younger brother and Pang Tong would surpass him. In this world, there are really endless talented and agile people, not to mention Chen Zichuan and Liu Xiang, who have become famous before me. Lu Zijing and other people of the same generation. Just say that the group of people younger than me behind me is really an era of heroes. Zhuge Jin sighed in his heart that 100 years ago, several people had spiritual talents. 4 or 5. Now. Yes, Boda also has a spiritual talent. Now that I think about it, it's incredible that I can talk and laugh with a stranger. Zhuge Jin sighed and said, "Kong Ming, you must surpass your brother and me." On the other side, Sima Yi and Sima Lang's room was repeating the same thing, but compared to Zhuge Jin, Sima Lang was even more shocked. Kong Ming is really powerful. At least I have never seen anyone of my generation like him, or even one who is inferior to him, and I have played 3 games of chess with him. Except for the last game after the draw, I thought for a long time about how to beat him. The other 2 games were lost.
Sima Yi said with a melancholic face. There is nothing to say about losing to Zhuge Liang. He just felt that he did not meet Zhuge Liang earlier, wasted a lot of time, and was difficult to find an opponent, which is Sima Yi's loneliness. Are they all defeated? Sima Lang was directly frightened. The child was 2 years younger than Sima Lang, right? Sima Yi now can't even frustrate his edge in chess power. He actually lost 2 games in a row at the hands of a child younger than Sima Yi, and the third game ended with only a draw, and after Zhuge Liang left, Sima Yi understood how to win the opponent. Brother, do you know why I want to turn on my spiritual talent? Sima Yi's face showed a touch of excitement. Zhuge Liang's appearance made him come out of the aura of genius, and saw another path in life, an eternal opponent. Without waiting for Sima Lang to answer, Sima Yi spoke, because I lost 2 games in a row, and finally lost out of control. I couldn't even hold back the jealousy in my heart. I was furious and no longer competed with the other party. I wanted to compete with him to govern the country and pacify the world, and took out the aura of my wise man to make him subdue in front of me, but I still lost. A strange smile appeared on Sima Yi's face. Kong Ming also has spiritual talent, and his mental capacity is no less than that of you. Big brother, he is really a genius. Sima Yi didn't have a little jealousy when he said this, only an excitement of meeting an opponent. When I saw him, I knew that there were surprises in this world. You never know what you would encounter. This feeling is really good. In the face of endless accidents, and my own ability can't cope with it, I have found the most correct way, that is, forbearance. Hold back your jealousy, hold back your arrogance, hold back your asterisk, hold back your delusional heart. Silently watch your opponent until you have a chance to kill with one blow. If the opponent is perfect and doesn't give you the slightest chance, then wait until he leaves like the previous game of chess. Sima Yi seemed to have an epiphany. The originally sharp light became rounded, and the original domineering arrogance also restrained and became ordinary and wooden. He had found his own direction. Sima Lang slowly regained his composure from the original shock. Zhuge Liang defeated Sima Yi with 2 wins and 1 draw in 3 games in the chess game, and then Sima Yi burst out with spiritual talent, and Zhuge Liang showed no less spiritual capacity than the top strategist in adulthood, which was even more surprising. But compared with Sima Yi's epiphany-like growth, Sima Lang smiled with relief. Sometimes failure is more than success. Seeing that the younger brother in front of him became mature like a transformation, Sima Lang laughed. I once heard Chen Zichuan say, "It is better to travel thousands of miles than to read 10,000 books. Traveling thousands of miles is not as good as seeing countless people. I have read countless people. It is not as good as a famous teacher to guide the way, and a famous teacher is not as good as to understand it by yourself." Sure enough. Sure enough. A defeat has made Zhongda grow to such a point. Worthwhile, very worthwhile. Sima Yi calmly looked at Sima Lang with an ecstatic face and did not speak. If the previous Sima Lang said this kind of ambition in front of Sima Yi and destroyed his own prestige, Sima Yi would definitely show a sarcastic face. And now Sima Yi's state of mind has become ancient, and he can be indifferent to these words. Losing to Zhuge Liang is indeed a good thing. Chapter 288. A qualified meal ticket in Fan Liang's eyes. Zhongda, your previous movement was too big. Let's leave for safety. Sima Lang looked at Sima Yi with a plain face and said with satisfaction, his brother's progress to this extent is simply a great joy for him, and this kind of thing is a floating cloud from home without saying goodbye. If you leave, there will be danger. Chen Zichuan and others will inevitably pay attention to every passenger who leaves Fengao after the incident. The Sima family in Hanoi is a big family with 1 or 2 talents. It is normal for them to come out. Once they are targeted because of leaving, they can't hide it at all. Sima Yi said indifferently. It's not safe to stay in the city, and we, the foreign tourists, must be the first to explore. Sima Lang nodded and agreed with Sima Yi's statement. It doesn't have to be like this. The Fan family has shown that Chen Zichuan was born in the Chen family in Yingchuan, and the Chen family and our Sima family are in-laws, so just buy a gift and give it to each other as a gift. Sima Yi said indifferently. I don't know if the head of the Fan family is here. I had a relationship with him a few years ago, and I also did a full set of plays. Sima Lang said with a smile, recognizing Sima Yi's approach. Since it was a family, why hide it? You will know when you ask. Sima Yi said calmly. In another room, Zhuge Jin looked at the urban management brigade shuttling downstairs. This Taishan elite is indeed not to be underestimated. Even if no one leads, the team is still strict. I'm afraid that each of them is a veteran of 100 battles, and I don't know how Chen Zichuan made the survival rate of the old soldiers increase to such a high level. Feng Jiao seems to have planned to search for Zhong Die, a dangerous person. No matter what, Zhong Die's spiritual talent is too dangerous for any top person. Zhuge Liang said with a chuckle. Although in the eyes of others, it is just a large number of urban management brigades today, but in Zhuge Liang's view, it is obvious that Zhongda has happened. The scope of the impact is not small. I'm afraid it's not easy. If Fengao has established a complete household registration, it is probably only a matter of time before it is found.
but it is estimated that it will not be easy to catch the other party when the household registration has just begun to be established and most people have not yet been included. Zhuge Jin's long face shook twice and said, "In order not to disturb the people, this way of attracting subordinates to join the household registration was chosen, and it is estimated that when most people have household registration, it will be forcibly spread out, and it is still not possible now." Zhuge Liang looked at another team of urban management below. "Compared with Danyang Elite, I am more optimistic about these urban management here. It is indeed a strong army." Zhuge Jin nodded and said, "Uncle, what habits can you live here?" Chen Shi casually shuttled through several streets to a hidden manor. The Fan Liang family lived here. "Fortunately, Sichuan is indeed a good skill." Fan Liang said with relief, "It's safe to hand over Jenna to you like this." If Fan Liang visited Chen Shi, who was still on the sickbed 2 years ago, he would die at any time. Fan Liang hesitated whether he wanted to violate the original agreement with Chen Shi's father and humiliate himself and not marry his daughter to Chen Shi. After all, in his original opinion, Fan Jian might directly kill Chen Shi if he married him, and he didn't want his daughter to bear the name of Kefu. Thinking about Cai Yang, you know that talent is far more complex and simple, and more than fame is not weaker than domestic celebrities. But the name of Kefu has caused all the teenagers who know about this matter to stay away from Cai Yang, who is alone, and must not marry home, which is why Cai Yang is a beautiful widow living in Mount Tai, in addition to playing the piano and reading books, but no one has seen anyone harass her. Because I can't afford to mess with it. It is said that Cai Yang has been doing well recently. After all, the second lady of the Cai family, who married early, and her husband Yang Qian returned to their hometown of Taishan. Knowing that his sister also came here to visit one or two from time to time, it can be regarded as a consolation. But what is more interesting is that the second lady, a 13-year-old yellow-haired girl, with a 2-year-old son, often lets Cai Yang play with it. Well, that sheep hair is not Miss Cai's biological child. It was born to Yang Shi's deceased wife, but the ex-wife died, and the second lady had no children under her knees and raised it as her own son. But a 13-year-old girl held a 2-year-old child. Chen Shi saw it a few times and only had one feeling, that is, Yang Shi is really a beast. When Chen Shi came to see Fan Liang after recovering from his illness, Fan Liang was much relieved, not to mention that he would become famous, but looking at that expression, he knew that there would be no accident in marrying his daughter to the other party. Just this one was enough. Fan Liang did not think that his son-in-law would be so good, and the posture of a middleman was enough. Because of this, Fan Liang means to quickly marry his daughter, so that his daughter has a son and a half-daughter or something. Although the family in this period pays attention to the wedding of 10***, and the child marriage of the royal family are completely two concepts, but Fan Liang does not feel that the happiness of his daughter is important at all. Well, at that time, Chen Shi did not hesitate to refuse, and Fan Liang could only comfort his mood with his ambition in all directions. In fact, sometimes Fan Liang would also scold Chen Shi for not knowing good or bad, and was killed by bandits on the road. As a result, when Chen Shi came back more than half a year later, Fan Liang's eyes looked at Chen Shi a little strange. Chen Shi's fate actually changed again and again. It was already good for the original tuberculosis ghost to become a middle person, but now there is a shining divine light on his body. Where is this the number of days? When he looked back at Liu Bei, Fan Liang sighed that this was a perfect and seamless rhythm. When I looked at Chen Shi now, I saw that the purple qi on Chen Shi's body had become a weather of its own, and it was magnificent and upright, and the general trend of the royal road was irreversible. Well, to put it simply, in Fan Liang's view, Chen Shi's situation was very strange. Originally, in troubled times, including the emperor, it was impossible for Chen Shi's stable luck to appear, and this gushing purple qi was to show one thing. That is, no matter who Chen Shi was the emperor, he had no influence on Chen Shi, and he was rich and glorious throughout his life, and after his death, incense sacrifices were endless, and the blessings were endless. This is simply too satisfying for Fan Liang. He is just a daughter. Marrying this kind of role that will not be unexpected to be the emperor is simply too loving. Although he does not seek glory and wealth, but he wants peace, but he can be both safe and wealthy, which is not better for his daughter. It is precisely because of this that Fan Liang looks at Chen Shi's son-in-law. The more he looks at it, the more satisfied he is. He has handed over the head of the family to another person in the Fan family. Anyway, he has no son and no inheritance, so he moved to Mount Tai with his concubine. Anyway, Chen Shi will definitely solve his problems of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, no matter how bad he is. There is still his daughter. Chen Shi is not good at saying anything about Fan Liang's attitude, or it should be said that his father-in-law is just spoiling Fan Jian. For him, as long as he can feed Fan Jian well, it should be said that he is really miserable enough, and even the father-in-law's goal is to make him a qualified meal ticket. Chapter 289 The Code of the Times. It is unlikely that the son-in-law will be harmonious, unless one party is too strong and has enough to crush the other party, and the kind of thing that seems harmonious but is actually very discordant will appear. Li Yu took Fa Zheng and began to issue household registration to those scholars who were willing to become gentlemen in advance, and Li Yu was extremely pleased to see them happily taking the household registration by Fa Zheng to borrow books from the library.
Miss Cai. Miss Cai
Fa Zheng saluted Cai Yang and Cai Yang's sister. It is said that Cai Yang has successfully transferred to a librarian, and it is not a problem to live in Mount Tai with nothing to do. So Li Yu recruited Cai Yang into the ranks of female officials when Chen Shi recruited female officials, as the only administrator of the library. First of all, Cai Yang, as an administrator, can borrow at any time, and can bring back the books he wants to read after get off work, and provide a large amount of paper for him to copy and use every month. There must be ruthless people among so many people, and some even ruthless characters who have left a reputation in history. If they are really selected according to what was said at the beginning, Cai Yang is basically impossible to be selected. Li Yu can now be said to be the only junior left in Cai Yang, and when Chen Shi hadn't yet decided how to take the exam, Li Yu asked Yang if he was interested in this profession. Cai Yang himself likes poetry, books, qin, and music, and naturally nodded at Li Yu's inquiry. When Li Yu took the time to tell Chen Shi the news, Chen Shi sent out the recruitment notice. Comparing the benefits of librarians and officials, many scholars know that with the addition of potential and benefits, this profession is definitely comparable to the official position of the third rank, and the news of public recruitment is very shocking, and naturally many characters pretending to be dead have exploded. At that time, Chen Shi looked at Chen Kai, Chen Hua, and Zheng Jia who signed up. Xu Qin and others were amazed. Yu Zhou's many talents are no joke, Yingchuan Academy except for producing top demons. There are not a few first-class and second-rate ones. Chen Kai was once elected as the general of Wu by Quan Zong, but unfortunately he died shortly after ascending to the throne, and Chen Huahuan's official position was mixed with the position of Shang Shuling of Wu State, that is, the position of Zun Yu of Wei. Of course, his ability is definitely not as good as Zun Yu's. When Zheng Jia was founded in the state of Wu, Chowie was he and Zhong Zhao who came out. Xu Qin, Chen Shi, did not have much impression, but had seen it in the book. Looking at the character Chen Shi, who was a little impressed by the vote, he felt that it was worth catching the Yuzhou scholars back. Also from Qingju came two ruthless people, Xu Gan and Wang Xiu. Don't look at the few people, but the battle is first class, not to mention Zhe Yang's talented woman. As the seventh son of Zenon, Xu Gan is not Cai Yang's opponent except for appearance and gender. The others are really not weaker than Cai Yang. Piano, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, hops, one by one, Cai Yang can win steadily, that is, the qin skills. Not to mention that when the time comes, if the country is governed, the world will be pacified. Agricultural and sericulture merchants are these practical things. Wang Xiu's combat effectiveness is enough to beat Lu Su, and you can't guarantee that Cai Yang will win the first place if you ask any questions in this group of people. However, Li Yu mentioned this matter to Cai Yang. If it can't be done well, it will be a shame. Naturally the so-called first public recruitment has become a black box operation, and Mi Zhan and Zhen Rong, Zhen Jiang, Miss Er, and other girls who stayed in Fenggao at that time were all pulled to the exam, and after the first round, Cai Yang, Miss Er, and Mi Zhan were left with 3 women. Then there was repeated screening, and finally 10 people were left for the final interview. But what was surprising was that the second lady who was not prepared at all actually reached the top 10. The interview is simple. Liu Bei appeared in person, the anger of the king was released, and all kinds of official benefits were used, and 8 people were directly taken away, leaving the eldest lady and the second lady. Naturally Cai Yang easily won this position, and the second lady also got her wish and obtained the power to borrow at any time. Proper black box operation, but everyone is very satisfied, and no one can see it, except for Li Yu feeling a little ashamed. Others are nothing except for feeling that there are too many exams. Of course, Liu Bei was more satisfied with recruiting 8 good talents, and after questioning each of them, he put Chen Kai under Liu Yi, Wang Xiu under Lu Su, and then Lu Su handed Wang Xiu over to Man Chong, and the others were sent to the newly occupied counties of Qingju. When her talent was banned not long ago, Cai Yang was naturally affected, but she didn't care too much when she was concentrating on reading at that time, and women's thinking was always a little different from that of men. After all, Li Yu felt that unknown people had mixed into Fenggao, which had a huge impact, and the other party could not continue like this, so Li Yu planned to start promoting household registration now. As for the later steps, solve the problem in front of him first. It is precisely because of this that there is this scene. A very important step in the rapid promotion of household registration is books, so Li Yu recruited the resting Cai Yang to reopen the cabinet and start borrowing according to the rules, and the embarrassing thing can happen once. If there is a next time, how can it be as helpless as it is now? Not that there is no means of prevention, but that the means of prevention are not promoted. How can a pit fall twice? Because of this, Li Yu took Fa Zheng to process the household registration outdoors. Li Yu filled in the household registration, stamped the seal, Fa Zhang took people into the library and handed them to Zhe Yang, and then Zhe Yang quickly found the books they wanted to borrow according to their requirements and filled in the time, and then Fa Zhang took them outside. And then the prepared urban management divided the people to the academy that Li Yu filled in before. As for whether the books will be lost or damaged, Li Yu doesn't take it to heart at all. There is not much at all in terms of cost, and holding the household registration will contain each other, and 1 or 2 books will completely nail more than a dozen people to Qingju. This kind of thing Li Yu is sure to be valuable. After all, giving up thousands of books for a book and causing a group of people to be unlucky will not do this kind of thing as long as you have a little brain. It is human nature to seek benefits and avoid harm, not to mention that for scholars in this era, reputation is far more important than ability. It is not worth breaking the future for a book, even if the price is worth 1,000 gold. This group of scholars who don't worry about food and clothing will not risk being poked in the spine by others to do this kind of thing, because there is no value. For the psychology of poor scholars, Li Yu, Liu Yi and others are still quite sure. Poverty cannot be moved is the life principle of many poor scholars. It is also a holy book in the eyes of many people. Chapter 299. And Our Advantages. When Chen Shi left from Fanliang, he began to think carefully about this incident. After all, the spiritual talent that has the talent to block everyone must be a top strategist. As for the general, from the conclusion Chen Shi has now obtained, the talent of the general seems to be acting on his own legion. And the talent of the strategist is completely different from the talent of the advisor who has a messy offensive and defensive support. Who could it be? Cao Mengde, Yuan Benchu, and Yuan Highway all received the marriage post, so naturally they would send someone to come, and I also deliberately asked Sun Ce to give the marriage post, and those princes with names and surnames would send people. Chen Shi was a little distracted and followed a team of urban management out, and when he turned out, 2 young scribes, one high and one low, brushed past him without noticing. Xiaoji is calculated according to the age of 1, and the spiritual talent awakened at the age of 16 can be regarded as a genius of heaven, and Pang Tong in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms and its parallel transmission is even better than it, but it is also limited in excellence, so it is calculated according to the age of 15. Chen Shi began to think about whether it could be those children who had not yet come out of the mountain. Zhuge Liang, Sima Yi is considered the extreme. About 14 years old to awaken spiritual talent is normal. That is to say, now Zhuge Liang can be eliminated. Pang Tong is possible if he is a monster. Sima Yi is just right, but they are all studying in their hometown. Chen Shi thought casually. Well, according to Zhu Yu's arrogance when he was a teenager, if he had this ability, it was very likely to do this. As for the spiritual talent, it was my Zhu Lang, a person with strength, intelligence, commander, and body. If he didn't wake up, it would be abnormal. Chen Shi shook his head helplessly and threw out this idea. It is estimated that the top strategists who have grown up in this period can appear here are those few, and Cao Cao's subordinates should be Chen Kun if nothing else. He will be this talent? Well, it's not impossible. It's strange to say that he doesn't have spiritual talent. Chen Shi included Chen Kun in his suspicion. After all, as far as the current acquisition situation was concerned, the talent coverage area obviously exceeded Fenggao City. Zhao Yun outside the city felt it. If you say this, maybe the other party is not in Fenggao? Chen Shi was a little cranky. Forget it. Forget it. It's better to leave it alone. It's normal to not find this kind of person. I have ignored the scope. The place where people are tickling is in Fenggao. It does not mean that people are also in Fenggao. It is dark under the true lamp. Thinking of this, Chen Shi was depressed. This can't be found at all. The previous investigation was all based on the other party in Fenggao, and now it is very likely that the person is not in Fenggao. How to investigate this? Forget it. Or think about who might have done it. After all, compared with others, Chen Shi has an impression of some unknown characters in this era who pretend to be dead and can't get out of the mountain. After all, those people have all been verified by history. It is indeed possible for those people on Cao Cao's side, but it is estimated that only Chen Kun can come, and if Yuan Shao's side is on the side, it is possible for Qian Fengju to teach Sun Chen. By the way, forget Cao Cao's Chen Gong. Thinking of this, Chen Shi's eyes froze. Chen Gong's ability is really hard to say. After all, it is a role that Cao Cao's advisors have played alone, and the historical performance and the current low-key and wooden intelligence are basically 2 people, which means that Chen Gong is pretending to be dead. This guy needs to be tempted. Chen Shi blacklisted a family from 500 years ago. Zhu Yu, Ji Yu Yong, Zhuge Jin, and Zhong Zhao are absolutely first-class in ability, and it is estimated that they have also awakened their spiritual talents. But these 4 should not come to Mount Tai, nor will they do such a thing. Chen Shi thought about it for a while. In the place of Sun Wu, for governors and 3 generations of civil officials, are definitely first-class ruthless people, but except for Zhu Yu and Lu Su, the other 2 are absolutely impossible. Just like Xu Shu. Lu Meng also did not study hard when he was young, and when he grew up, he realized that he had a successful job change quickly. In terms of talent, it is definitely not bad, although it is not as good as Shu Shu's obviously abnormal talent. But in terms of diligence, it is estimated that he is much better than Shu Shu. Because of this, if Lu Meng and Shu Shu awaken their talents after normal age, it is absolutely impossible for talents to appear in their teens, so Chen Shi directly did not count Lu Meng. Naturally, Lu Zun is a child less than 10 years old, although the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is also a separate biography of him and Zhuge Liang, but Zhuge Liang may not do it, and Lu Zun is like that. Ma Liang, Ma Su, forget it, it's even more impossible. Jiang Wn. Well, the age is not right. Liao Li? This seems to be a bit possible, according to this guy's personality and ability age. This is the only demon who said we will be enslaved by foreign races in the end after Zhuge Liang's death. Chen Shi's thinking swept over Jing Xiong, and suddenly remembered a character who stood side by side with Pang Tong in Zhuge Liang's evaluation. But it was obvious that this guy was more arrogant than Pang Tong. This guy has a bad personality, and he still has the ability, but it is unlikely to appear in Mount Tai. If it is a Zhou, Zhongsong? Liu Ba. It's all average, and it may not be up to standard. Chen Shi frowned and thought. After scanning the entire map, I finally found that I got rid of those geniuses who had not yet grown up, and then got rid of the strategists who did not come like Kui Juping, who were Xin, Zhong Yao, Yuan Shao, and Cao Cao. In fact, there were not many people who met the conditions, except for Yuan Cao's people who came this time. There were also Liao Li, Sima Lang, Chen Gong, Hu Zhao, and Dong Zhao who didn't seem to fit very well. This makes it much smaller. But I always feel that I missed a few. It's really depressing. Think about it carefully. It seems that Cao Cao is not generally strong. Hua Xin, Zhong Yao, Dong Zhao, Jiang Ji, these will sooner or later be Cao Cao's people, and there are more first-class civil servants than us. The super first class can actually hold us. Chen Shi thought about Cao Cao's lineup and felt that the head was big, and the military general Shan Biong may not be Liu Bei's opponent, but he can barely stand up, and the civil officials seem to have overwhelmed them on the other side. Cao Cao's more than 100 civil servants with names and surnames, the first 5 and the back 3 8 great strategists, plus Sima Yi and 9, 3 were dug up, and there were 6, and the strongest Wei state was no joke. Sure enough, it is still necessary to weaken Cao Cao, and the generals can only act on the legion, which is really bad, once the other party does not fight with us, if they fight directly. Chen Shi estimated that it seemed that the Cao family and the Xiahou family were quasi-first class. There were many second-rate generals, and there were handsome talent-level figures. Fortunately, I have collected a year's worth of grain this year, and all the money I earn from books, salt, plush, land, etc. has been replaced with grain, grass, and medicinal materials. Chen Shi compared the savings of Liu Bei and Cao Cao and was instantly relieved. What Lu Su said made sense. As long as Chen Shi hadn't fallen, even if he blocked all his talents, he still had the confidence to fight. Thinking of this, Chen Shi became confident. It is true that it is terrifying to block everyone's talent, but so what, even if a group of us have no talent, the war is not reversed by relying on a spiritual talent alone. Admit that you have an advantage. But it is pure strength that determines the outcome of the battle. Why should we be taboo with that kind of strategy? A smile crossed the corner of Chen Shi's mouth. He already knew what to do. It didn't matter if he could find it or not. He had gone astray before, or the people of Taishan thought about this matter too seriously, and when the strategy was not as good as others, then use a dignified military force to crush them. Chapter 291 No Chance to Meet Opposite. Big Brother. The one who was a little dumbfounded just now was Chen Zichuan. Sima Yi frowned and asked his eldest brother, if it weren't for the amazing mental capacity inadvertently revealed, I would have just looked away, and I felt a little different from the last time I saw it. It's indeed Chen Zichuan. Compared with the last time we watched it, this time he should be thinking about things and not concentrating. Sima Lang nodded and said, compared with Chen Shi, who was in high spirits and holding wisdom pearls in the restaurant before, today was obviously a bit useless. I didn't expect that after asking our Sima family businessman in Fenggao, he would ask about the residence of the head of the Fan family at once, and my father trained these people well. Sima Yi said calmly. He still trusted the ability of his own servants. His father Sima Fang borrowed the hands of merchants to cast a net in the world, and the Sima family began to lay out the world for their own survival very early. Yes. Sima Lang nodded and said, let's go and meet the master of the Fan family, and then we should be able to borrow books from the library. That's the safest. Sima Yi nodded and said yes, quite recognizing his brother's arrangement. Please send this thing to the head of the Fan family, and say that Hanoi Sima Job Boda brought Zhongda to visit. Sima Lang handed over the invitation and said to the concierge with a smile, and under the influence of his spiritual talent, the other party couldn't help but have a sense of conviction about Sima Lang. Young master, wait a moment. The concierge bowed to Sima Lang, and did not treat the scholars who came to visit the scholars who wanted to become officials in the past, but very respectfully said that he would immediately announce Fan Liang. Fan Liang looked at the post, a little strange. The Fan family and the Sima family did not have much contact, but a few years ago, he did see Sima Lang, and he was honored to be called an uncle. After all, it can be regarded as stained with Chen Shi's light.
Invite them into the living room. I'm going to change my clothes.
Fan Liang motioned for the old housekeeper to invite Sima Lang in. Sima Lang was different from other scholars, and there was no such thing as asking for an official position. You must know what his father Sima Fang said, that he is now a high-ranking official of 2,000 stones, and his friends are all over the world. There is no need to come to him Fan Liang to ask for an official position, so he didn't cause trouble to Chen Shi. The old housekeeper personally welcomed the Sima brothers into the door. The two young masters wait for a while, and the head of the family will arrive later. He ordered the maid to pour tea, served dim sum and preserved fruit and waited there, and then he slowly withdrew. Ha ha, Boda hasn't seen me for a long time, and I said goodbye to Luoyang back then. In the blink of an eye, several years have passed, and the Lord is now good. Fan Liang saw the Sima brothers as soon as he entered the door, and naturally saw the blessings on the two of them, and naturally said with a smile, I've seen my uncle, and my father is in good health. Sima Lang took Sima Yi up and bowed, without saying anything else, just told Fan Liang that he was in good health, naturally implying that the others were scum. The second brother is studying at home all day long, and I'm afraid that he will not be able to extricate himself, so I take him out on a trip. Passing through Mount Tai, I heard that my uncle's daughter came to a banquet. This is my second brother Zhongda, who is a little wooden by nature. Uncle Fan, don't be surprised. Sit down, you call me uncle, I will accept your affection. I think you are not here to rub the little girl's banquet. You are here to rub the Chen family's banquet. After all, your Sima family and the Chen family are from the same source, and they have been in contact for nearly 100 years, and you should come and see it when you pass through here. Fan Liang smiled and said, he could understand Sima Lang's statement. In Fan Liang's view, the two Sima brothers were not so much passing through Mount Tai that they found his Fan family marrying their daughter and came to the banquet. It is better to learn that Chen Shi is a child of the Chen family in Yingchuan and came to congratulate him as a distant relative. After all, their Fan family and the Sima family do not have any deep friendships. On the contrary, the Chen family in Yingchuan and the Sima family in Hanoi are closely related. After all, the ancestors are a family. The family is very strange. It's not afraid of the distance, it's okay. Sima Yi's grandfather Sima Yang came to Yingchuan as an official. After all, there were too many noble clans in Yingchuan, and it was not easy to manage, and then I accidentally saw my ancestors on the Chen family's genealogy, and then it was fun. The relationship between the Chen family and the Sima family began to heat up from that time, which is why Hanoi and Yingchuan are so far away, but Chen Kun and Sima Yi are friends, because one of their aunts is the other party's aunt. Anyway, these two families that are far away are actually quite chaotic. The ancestors are a family, the descendants are separated, and then they begin to marry, and in recent generations, the people of the Chen family and the Sima family have some relatives. Although this relationship is relatively far away, but in ancient times this relationship was enough to come when you got married, not to mention that it came from thousands of miles away. That friendship is really no joke. This is also why Fan Liang didn't feel strange about Sima Lang's banquet, like this kind of traveling around the world, meeting relatives in a foreign land, eating and staying with each other. It is natural, and you should take another pack with you before leaving. Sima Lang and Sima Yi instantly knew a piece of news. Chen Shi is the orthodox Yingchuan Chen family bloodline. No matter how weak, Fan Liang can say this, that is, the ancestral hall is in Yingchuan, then the rest is more reasonable. Uncle, forgive me, my second brother and I have also heard that Chen Zichuan is a member of the Chen family in Yingchuan, but we have never seen it in the clan. After all, the people of the same generation of the Chen family do not say that everyone can be clear, but at least they should be able to have an impression. Sima Lang said with a wry smile, that's why I came to my uncle first to confirm one or two. In case I made a mistake, then the two of us would be laughed to death by Chang. Ha ha ha, don't worry. Zichuan is indeed from the Chen family in Yingchuan, although he is a little unhappy with the clan, but there will be no problem for relatives like you to go. Fan Lianglang smiled and said, he also understood the affairs of the Chen family. Isn't it just a separation? Which family has never appeared? Didn't Sima Sui though, the ancestor of the two guys sitting opposite, successfully separate from the Chen family? For the family, you can divide, as long as you succeed, they will recognize, if you fail, then you can only he. In this way, the two of us will feel at ease, and we won't be able to continue to disturb my uncle. Sima Lang was relieved after he was sure that he could play well, and when the time came, who would go to Chen Shi's banquet to catch people, there was darkness under the lamp, as long as he didn't expose it, there would definitely be no problem. Ha ha ha, by the way, give each of you two a certificate. Fan Wu will take 2 of the borrowing certificates that Zichuan gave me. Fan Liang smiled and said to the housekeeper outside the door, "Uncle doesn't have any good things, only Zichuan's things to entertain you. But you're welcome, there are indeed some amazing works in the Fengao library. Since you are traveling, don't forget your studies, don't refuse." Sima Lang and Sima Yi looked at each other, and then bowed to Fan Liang. "Thank you, Uncle. The two of us have always wanted to enter the Fengao library, but today we finally got what we wanted." Chapter 292 The Wild Pang Tong Meets the Destined. Pang Tong of Jingju was depressed when he learned that Zhuge Liang did not intend to become his uncle's apprentice, so he packed up his baggage and prepared to leave Jingju without saying a word. In short, Pang Tong has already planned to fight with Zhuge Liang to the end, no matter how to divide a winner or loser, before he heard that Zhuge Liang already knew his talent attributes, and Pang Tong is now still dissatisfied with his talent attributes. Zhuge Liang is 2 years younger than himself, and now he has also awakened his talent, and Pang Tong, who has always been very arrogant in front of Zhuge Liang, was deeply hit. Now Pang Tong is staring at the Taoist in front of him, although he has encountered bandits on the way out of Jingju, but the strategists with more than 90 intelligence have some means of self-protection, and there is no problem in dealing with the minions when they travel to learn the commonly used mental power attack methods in both hands, but now they have encountered a strange person. TSK, TSK. The Taoist turned around Pang Tong, looking Pang Tong up and down in amalgamation. "Strange, why do you see my death when I see you? This is really interesting enough." "Why did the old man say this? You are radiant and childlike, how can you die today?" Pang Tong said with a hippie smile, "From ancient times to the present, it is impossible to offend Taoist priests in the wild, and Pang Tong is also very aware of this. I didn't say today, I just saw my death date in you. It's really strange, I used to think that I should be able to become an immortal, why did I die when I came to you?" Master Zishu circled around Pang Tong. "Boy, you're going to Zuzhu, right, although it feels a little strange to see my death in you, but I'm happy to see a different future. I'm happy today, tell me what you want to learn, what you want to know, I can help you, don't go to Zuzhu, you may not be able to come back." After Zishu finished turning in circles, he stopped in front of Pang Tong. Touched his beard. Pang Tong was stunned, and no matter whether the other party really had this ability, it was not a normal person who would be happy to see his death. Pang Tong's eyes rolled. "Boy Pang Tong asked my father to tell me about my spiritual talent." Saying that, Pang Tong spread his huge mental volume and looked at Zishu with an arrogant face. In an instant, the future that Zishu saw continued to be shattered and revived, and finally the entire future began to be chaotic. Zishu's eyes lit up, he saw several different futures in Liu back then, so he woke up Liu, and now this teenager is actually even more outrageous. Restraining his spiritual power will create a different future, and the future is directly gone under the full opening. There is no future. Or if the future is chaotic, that is to say, the boy in front of him means one of the creators of the future weather, and the direction in which the future will go has too much to do with the boy's choice, so the future of the boy in front of him is uncertain, and everything is created by him. Ha ha ha. Your name is Pang Tong? Okay, good. Zishu laughed, quickly deduced, frantically operating his own ability to calculate Pang Tong's ability. After a long time, Zishu looked at Pang Tong. "Boy, you are the best and most potential I have ever seen, probably the best in the world. The most potential strategist, you don't have the spiritual talent of others similar to spells, or even magical powers, but you have a basic power that far exceeds theirs." Under Zishu's explanation, Pang Tong quickly understood his spiritual talent. If Zhuge Liang's talent was the spiritual talent of everyone on his side, then Pang Tong's talent was to accumulate the attributes of all the enemy people to himself to a certain extent. Maybe the degree of superposition is not high. And with the increase of one's own intelligence, each enemy wise man can add fewer attributes to Pang Tong. But no matter how little it is, it means that every time a wise man Pang Tong is added, every attribute of more than 100 points is a qualitative change, the opposite quantitative change, and the Pang Tong qualitative change. To put it simply, if Zhuge Liang is playing skills, Pang Tong directly added points, abandoned all skills, and was purely crushed. Anyway, as long as my flat slash is higher than your skill damage, it doesn't matter if the skill is not a skill. Because of this, Pang Tong is not afraid of strong opponents. The opponent is regarded as a last fight Sima Yi. Pang Tong gnawed a dozen Sima Yi's attribute points and added them to his head. Sima Yi opened the talent for Pang Tong, who gnawed on the spiritual talent of maintaining attributes by relying on spiritual quantity, and then Pang Tong, who can basically slaughter gods alone, will definitely make Sima Yi understand how strong the opponent is. All in all, Pang Tong belongs to the kind of person who is not afraid of the opponent's strength. The opponent is strong, and he will become stronger. Don't be afraid of the opponent's weakness. If the opponent is weak, you can run over the strong one. What Pang Tong hates most about this ability is the kind of character who says he is weak and not weak, but he can't squeeze out attribute points from the other party to superimpose on himself. Obviously, when he entered Sichuan, Zhong Ren had just stuck on that line, and he was used to the intellectual crushing, thinking that those who did not squeeze out the attribute points were all weak chickens. But he made a mistake in judgment and was directly pitted to death by Zhong Ren. Look at Pang Tong when dealing with Cao Cao and Ju Yu before, and then look at Pang Tong when dealing with Zhong Ren to know how strong this guy is when dealing with masters, and then look at how strong this guy is when dealing with Zhong Ren. It is obvious that he underestimated the other party, and it is obvious that he regards the other party as a weak chicken. Pang Tong's intelligence quickly understood that the talent was used to fight against the enemy, and it was most suitable to fight the strong with the weak, and compared to Zhuge Liang's spiritual talent was not weak at all, and even in some places he still won it, although there were some doubts about how the other party calculated it, but it would be good to test it when the time came. Thank you, old man, for your guidance. Regardless of whether it is accurate or not, Pang Tong can feel that what the other party said is indeed reasonable. After all, after he turned on his talent, when he watched Zhuge Liang awaken his talent, when he regarded it as an opponent, his thinking seemed to be suddenly strengthened. If this is the case, if you have always regarded Zhuge Liang as an opponent for a lifetime, it seems that you can borrow part of Zhuge Liang's intelligence. I'll go. Okay, Kong Ming, you will be my opponent for the rest of your life. Pang Tong's mind turned quickly. He was very powerful, he knew it, but whether he admitted it or not, it seemed that he was still a little weaker than Zhuge Liang, so Zhuge Liang could brush a lot of attributes on him. From this moment on, Pang Tong made up his mind to become an opponent of both enemies and friends with Zhuge Liang. How could he brush out some attributes from Zhuge Liang? With such attributes, Pang Tong was confident that he would never be afraid of Zhuge Liang. Pang Tong had no idea that he had also met this person in history, and then formed a relationship with the other party, but the purple void of that world was obviously not as ferocious. Pang Tong didn't know that in history, it was because he had a relationship with Zishu, and then when he entered Sichuan, Zishu felt that his fate was coming, so he talked nonsense to Zhong Ren, Deng Xian, and others, and as a result, Zhong Ren's brain pulled out Zishu's words, and he killed Pang Tong with ease, needless to say. Zishu successfully killed a protagonist of atmospheric luck, naturally backlashed, and Zhuge Liang came in a few days, and the army drove away, and he himself was basically useless because of the backlash of Zishu, and he also accompanied Pang Tong to play after the military disaster, and this fate was simply speechless. Chapter 293 Cao Cao's family letter enters Zuzhu. Pang Tong understood his talent under Zishu's explanation, although he could get bonuses from his opponents, but as long as he was a person, there was a physiological limit, which means that it was not really infinitely stackable. That's about the extent of it. Pang Tong now thinks that this Taoist priest is very good, and he will answer any questions, although his brain may be a little abnormal, but how can a Taoist priest be the same as a normal person? Let's put it this way, your current intelligence and way of thinking are close to the limits of people. Zishu touched his beard, and then seemed to remember something, took out a book from his arms, looked at Pang Tong's strange eyes staring at him. Zishu explained, "This is a book I came from the Qingju library. It is said that Chen Zichuan lectured on numerology, and there is a quantification in it." Probably staring at Pang Tong's eyes a little hairy, Zishu handed the book to Pang Tong, and he was almost caught by Zhuo Xi when he went to steal the book. In other words, although Zishu and Zhuo Xi are not people all the way, but Yu Ji who wants to take advantage of the imperial power in the world is not all the way, he just wants to study whether he can be bent by him in the future. This is also why Zishu is looking for characters who can create a different future, saying that when he saw Li Yu before, he found that Li Yu's future had become more complicated, and he was very satisfied with this. After all, Li Yu escaped death, and he was very satisfied with this result. Anyone whose destiny is going to die can turn a corner, which shows that fate is not a fixed number, and only chaos in the future has the value of creation. If it is already destined, Zishu feels that he still eats and waits for death. Because of this reason, Zishu didn't care about death, he cared about his own results, and he found a book in the library. There is a word called science in it, and Zishu feels that what he does is very in line with science. Now that the Purple Void Daoist has changed his slogan from "Where is the destiny" to dedicate himself to science. In short, in his opinion, Pang Tong is a very valuable research material. As for whether he will die, just study it. It's worth dying, it's boring to live, science is a good thing. I mean to say that I am already at my limit, so isn't my talent a decoration? Pang Tong took the book away, and then said with a dark face, "Listen to me, you understand, quantify, 99 is the limit of people, and you estimate that there are 97. 100 is the separation of humans and gods, and your quality can allow you to bear about 100 or more data. As for how much you can bear, it is not clear. Generally speaking, the higher you are, the higher you bear, but 20% should be the limit." Zishu showed off the numerology knowledge he had just learned. "Oh, that's right." Pang Tong nodded and said he knew. "But if you bear 20%, the burden is too much for you, and let's say that to your level, One achievement is enough to give you an advantage in 1-on-2, and even 1-on-3 cannot fall behind in the short term. Zishu warned him, he didn't want Pang Tong to really drive to the limit, that would be too heavy a burden on himself. In his opinion, there is basically no time for a demon like Pang Tong to pick out 3. In other words, Zishu had no idea that the wise men who were rare before this era were about to flood, let alone 1-on-3, it was really a bad face. It will appear when it is 1-on-5. It seems that Pang Tong's face is really not very good. In other words, thinking about it now, Chen Gong is miserable enough, according to Zishu's statement that the physiological limit is 20%, with Chen Gong's 92 and 3 intelligence, it is estimated that Chen Gong was definitely opening the physiological limit at that time, relying on about 101 intelligence, he barely withstood the bombardment of the other party. And finally abruptly emptied all his savings. But then again, this is also Cao Cao's group of people who are fierce enough, and it is estimated that Chen Gong will succeed in counterattacking alone on others, and Cao Cao is the only one who can have this level of strategist group at that time. This matter rested on Yuan Shao, and it is estimated that Yuan Shao couldn't stand it, and sure enough, sometimes it is a tragedy to choose the wrong opponent. Okay. Can the old man tell me the name? The kid Pang Tong will thank you if he has the opportunity in the future. Pang Tong had a sense of intimacy for Zishu. After all, as soon as he left his hometown, he met such a good person, which solved Pang Tong's troubles. Ha ha ha, no need, there is a fate to see you again. Pang Shiyuan will do what you have to do, I am very optimistic about you. Zishu laughed and stretched out his hand to pat Pang Tong's shoulder, and then the purple petals that turned into garlic slowly disappeared, leaving a sentence between heaven and earth. Pang Shiyuan, do what you want. Pang Tong looked at Zishu, who had turned into petals in a daze, and when he met a real immortal, he thought about Zishu's temper again. Old man, come back, I want to learn this trick. On the other side, Zishu, who had just transformed into a form, suddenly felt his feet crooked when he heard this sentence from Yao Yao, this kid. He also has to go everywhere to visit the virtuous, looking for those who are enough to change the destiny. He wants to continue his research. Nanhua believes in power, Zhong Jiao believes in himself, Zhou Xi believes in Dao, Yu Ji believes in luck, Nanhua used to believe in fate, so he can talk to Yu Ji. Recently Nanhua feels that he should convert to science. At Cao Song's residence in Langya County, Zuzhu, looking at the letter sent by his eldest son, he looked at his second son with emotion, and a kind of joy arose spontaneously. I think that Cao Song liked his second son Caoda at the beginning, and did not like his short and ugly eldest son Cao Cao, but Cao Cao had defeated Yuan Shu to establish the position of a hero in the Central Plains, sitting on the land of a state, with more than 100,000 soldiers and armor. No matter whether he liked it back then or not, now his son has become a hero. Look at his beloved second son, he has become a generation of great Confucianism, although he is not good at the art of war, but the head is handsome, and he is good at education. How many children of the Xiahou family and the Cao family, and Cao Cao's younger brothers are all educated by Cao De, not to mention that there is absolutely no problem with this brother and brother. It is said that when Cao De was alive, the children of the Cao family and the Xiahou family were educated by this guy, and the death of this guy was a major loss for Cao Cao. The chaos of the Cao family in the later period also has a lot to do with the absence of this guy. Cao De himself is just a great Confucian, but the group of guys he cultivated with Cao Ren, Xiahou Dun, Xiahou Yuan, Cao Hong, Cao Chun, and Cao Xiu may not have been cultivated by Cao De, but the feelings are real. It can be said that Cao De's education can be regarded as a real way to make these guys who are not close to each other reach brotherhood and unite around Cao Cao, and then look at the losses caused by the Cao family's nest fighting in the future to know how important this guy is to the Cao family. And it is really a pity to die. Cao Song was really satisfied with having a son who could prosper the family and a son who could unite the family. So this time he planned to take out his coffin book to expand his son's strength. It doesn't make sense for money to always exist in your hands, since now that the brothers are united, then Cao Song is confident that the Cao family and the Xiahou family will not decline. So Cao Song is naturally willing to fully support his son. Chapter 294 This is Fate. Cao Song is very rich. The official history records that he spent 100 million yuan when he bought the position of the 3 public officials, generally speaking, as long as he bought an official in 3 months. But Cao Song was not too ruthless, there was no problem in returning the capital in a year, and there was still a few billions of money in the next few years. In short, Cao Song packed up and packed all the things away, and pulled more than 100 carts of money, grain, and baggage, and it was obvious that this situation would be slower to go back, and basically it was impossible to go to Yangzhou Chenliu in a month or two. Zishu, you two take your younger brothers first. Presumably Meng De and the others miss you very much, and your uncles and I will walk slowly all the way with the baggage. More than 100 truckloads of money and food are not a joke, stopping and stopping for dozens of miles a day, walking for more than 10 days without reaching the East China Sea. The juniors of the Cao family have long been impatient, so Cao Song also felt that there was no need to limit this group of boys to his side, let the guards send them to Yangju.
Yes, grandfather,
Cao Ang said excitedly, and then took Cao Pai. Xiahou Shong's group of boys flashed without hesitation, and if they continued to grind like this group of impatient boys would sneak away sooner or later. After that, Cao Cao's eldest son Cao Ang and Cao Da's eldest son Cao Anmin took a group of boys from the Cao family and the Xiahou family to follow his grandfather and distribute them to them, and the guards rode horses and disappeared in a flash.
Little bully, why did you leave with them?
Cao Song looked at Xiahou Ba, who was only 10 years old, and all his brothers ran away. Why didn't Xiahou Ba follow?
Grandfather gave us an escort. Doesn't grandfather need an escort himself?
Xiahou Ba shook his head and said, although he is young, as Xiahou Yuan's extremely excellent son, he has already shown some different appearances when he is a little younger. Far better than his eldest brother Xiahou De and his cousin Xiahou Maro. Ha ha ha, little bully, don't worry, Grandpa will be fine in Zuzhu. Your uncle has defeated Yuan Shu's heroes. Zuzhu itself is rich, and there won't be too many bandits. When I arrived in Donghai County, as long as Dao Gongzu was not stupid, he would definitely send troops to send me to Yangju, if something happened to our party on the border of Zuzhu.
Your uncle will not let Dao Gongzu go.
Cao Song laughed proudly.
Oh, so that's it?
Xiahou Ba scratched the back of his head, although he didn't understand it very well, but he also knew that his elders would not have safety problems.
That. The little bully wants to be with his grandfather. Or go chase your brothers and brothers.
Cao Song asked with a smile. He was very satisfied with Xiahou Yuan's son.
Hem.
Xiahou Ba looked at Cao Song a little embarrassed.
Go, stay with us and you'll feel restrained.
Cao Song looked at Xiahou Ba's expression and knew what Xiahou Ba was thinking, so he ordered someone to bring a horse and sent more than a dozen guards to send Xiahou Ba to chase his brothers and brothers. It is precisely because of Cao Song's move to send away all the young people in the clan that he has saved a lot of blood for the Cao family, otherwise. On the other hand, Zhuge Liang and Zhuge Jin relied on the connections left by his father when he was an official in Mount Tai to get to Li Yu's side, and then Zhuge Jin relied on his own talents to mix with Zhuge Liang in the library after not much time.
Zhuge Xiaoyu, are you willing to come to me to serve as an official?
Li Yu is very satisfied with a young and promising student like Zhuge Jin. As for whether he is a little young at the age of 18 or 19, in Li Yu's opinion, there is no pressure, and Fa Zheng is 16 years old by Guo Jiao.
Jiao Shu, how long has it been for Chen Shi to catch child labor?
Excellent teenagers, as long as they have the ability, Li Yu doesn't mind absorbing them at all. Alas, Jin feels that he is stupid and difficult to become a great talent, and it is difficult to accept what Mr. said. Zhuge Jin has been hit a little more by children recently, and when he said this, he sincerely made Li Yu believe it to be true, so he didn't make any more invitations, but told the other party that he would come to Fenggao after he had achieved something, and Fenggao was a good place or something. In other words, although Li Yu admires Zhuge Jin as a young man, Zhuge Jin's current tone is obviously that he wants to be a hermit, so Li Yu did not force it anymore, of course. This is also because Li Yu and Zhuge Jin chatted like a spring, wanting to solve official duties quickly, and did not pay too much attention to Zhuge Jin. In short, Zhuge Jin shook Li Yu like this. In other words, according to Li Yu's integrity, if he really knew that Zhuge Jin had spiritual talent, he would not care about the other party's hermit or not. Either he would stay by himself, or he would tie up Zhuge Jin, and he would need to stay both horizontally and vertically. Inspired by Zhuge Jin's own thinking, Li Yu's wisdom was obviously upgraded, and some blind spots that he hadn't paid attention to before also paid attention to, and it became easier to do his work. When Sima Lang and Sima Yi came in from formal channels, they found that Zhuge Jin and Zhuge Liang were already looking for books on the bookshelf.
Brother Boda, Zhongda, and you are also here, Zhuge Jin said with a smile.
Since Tsuyu arrived early, can he find his beloved book? Sima Lang said with a smile on his face. Even Zhuge Liang felt Sima Lang's kindness. It's not a good thing for Brother Boda to seduce with his spiritual talent. Zhuge Jin had just given birth to his kindness towards Sima Lang when he remembered the other party's spiritual talent, snorted coldly, and said dissatisfiedly,
"It's easy to say."
Sima Lang restrained his spiritual talent and still smiled and said, "I don't know if you two can find books of interest."
Go away, don't get in the way."
Monsieur stopped the cart and said dissatisfiedly with her hands on her hips and staring at the four people blocking the road in front of her.
"Dare to ask the young lady, what are these books?"
Sima Lang said with a gentle face. Miss Cai, who was a little spicy before, couldn't help but be a little shy in the face of Sima Lang's smile. "I am a sheep-sized family, and I am a manager here. These books are some new military books, as well as miscellaneous strategies."
"Can we see what happens?"
Sima Lang bowed elegantly, and at the same time, Zhuge Jin also stared at Miss with his peripheral vision. he found that there were no military books here, mainly classics, and the real art of war and political strategy were all in Cai Yang's place, and he needed Cai Yang to pass it. Miss Sir thought for a while. Probably okay. Chen Zichuan said that these things are some less important books. It should be okay. Well, you have to read it and get a copy quickly. Don't let my sister find out. Zhuge Jin indifferently followed Sima Lang and drew a copy. Of course, he thanked Sima Lang. Brother Boda's spiritual talent is really good. Sima Lang curled his lips, didn't say anything, and walked to the side with his younger brother. He didn't have much expectations for the books in his hand. After all, Miss Sir said that it was not a very important book. But no matter how you think about it, it is a book, and you have any dissatisfaction with the book. Well, Miss Sire's cart of books are all Chen she combined with the theories of later generations. Anyway, in this era, 10,000 words is a book. Chen she said 100,000 words a day, and then let the traditional and simple write down, which can be regarded as finding something to do for the traditional and simple, and it will be a book full of wisdom when the time comes. After all, the essence of 2,000 years of wisdom can shake out a lot of scary things just by shaking it twice. But Chen Shi is obviously messing around. Some books are contradictory and speechless, and he is too lazy to modify. Anyway, these books are used to inspire people of this era, and they are not really going to write famous books. Chapter 295 When Dao Prosperity is Coming. Sima Yi and Sima Lang sat aside with the book to read the book, and frowned after reading the beginning of the book. They used to read all the letters, and the end was the subtle words. After all, it was very troublesome to write a book in a simplified book, and it was absolutely not more than one word to save 2 words, and it was absolutely not more than half a word. As for whether this will cause ambiguity, the people who write books will not pay attention. It depends on your understanding. 8 out of 10 genres in later generations are because of different interpretations of a book, and then attack each other, open. Chen Shi naturally wouldn't allow that kind of thing to happen, and now it's not bamboo slip engraving, so there is no need to be so neat at all, so there is a lot of nonsense in the mouth. Naturally, this kind of book that does not conform to the meaning of the subtle words made Sima Yi and Sima Lang frown wildly at a glance. Of course, Zhuge Liang and Zhuge Jin, who are reading the book now, are also frowning. They don't know the word water. If they know water, they will definitely roar angrily how this book is watery. I don't know if the person who wrote the book is also watery. God knows if you pour your own water into the water and make yourself dry. However, the 4 of them are the kind of people who love books, so they naturally endured their discomfort and gnawed the original book, and finally came to a conclusion that the book is very good. But the person who wrote the book deliberately mixed nonsense into it, which made you angry, and you leaked the book if you were not careful. Opposite and unified. Sima Yi muttered to himself. The books he had read before were summarized in this book. The law of everything is logic. Zhuge Liang closed the book in shock. Grasping the law will make everything easier, so it is. Thick black and thin white opposition and unity. Sima Lang looked at this book with sadness, always feeling a little unsatisfied. Internal and external, direct and indirect, essential and non-essential, necessarily and accidentally, diverse connections. Zhuge Jin closed the book and sighed. It is worthy of being a treasure in the world. Sima Lang and the 4 of them didn't read many other books. They all need to digest the shock in their hearts. They all know that what these books talk about is real, and the content is more profound than the books they have read before, except for the guy who wrote the book likes to mix nonsense into it. Nothing else. But in the eyes of these 4 people, if the other party didn't like to mix nonsense into it, these books wouldn't be evaluated as unimportant. Kong Ming, what do you think? Sima Yi looked at Zhuge Liang, who was sitting at the table and thought deeply, and asked, Get rid of the nonsense inside. The book I read is enough to accommodate all the books I read. Zhuge Liang sighed and said, What about yours? Mine is the same. I admire the predecessor who wrote such a book, except for adding some irrelevant words to it from time to time. Everything else is good. Sima Yi said with a wry smile, I don't know whose secret treasure this is. The 4 of you are good. I will take it away after reading the book. These books cannot be taken away. Do you want to transcribe them? Miss Saya saw these 4 guys finish reading. So she came over with a smile on her face and asked, You must know that she had also read a lot of this kind of book, from the shock at the beginning, to the numbness of being bombarded later. Just one idea. The guy who wrote the book was really knowledgeable. I have written it down. Thank you, Miss Cai. Sima Lang bowed and said. He also understood that if he hadn't met Miss Saya today, he wouldn't have been able to get this kind of strange book teaching. Miss Saya was stunned. Her sister was very envious of her for not forgetting her, and now there are 4 guys who never forget. By the way, I dare to ask Miss Xie. I said before that these books are just a better choice. Can you let us see the superior book? Sima Lang asked. In an instant, the attention of the others was focused, and the book they were reading was actually a medium book, so what would be the high-quality record? Oh, the Book of Superiority. Didn't you notice a lot of nonsense in these books? Remove that nonsense. Recustomization is a high-quality book, and it's all blamed on Chen Chuan, who insisted on saying that the book was written by the word to calculate the money, so the later books became like this. Miss Sia said with a depressed face. In fact, this was also Chen Shi's lip service, saying that there were people who were willing to write books and print them here according to the schedule of the book and give money according to the words. Recently, Chen Shi asked the book to be recorded in traditional and simple forms, and the traditional and simple records were also busy, so they were not deliberately embellished, and there was naturally more nonsense mixed in, and they were not changed to orthodox subtle words, and the result was obviously in Miss Sia's second opinion that the guy who wrote the book was thinking about cheating money. Of course, Miss Sia also admitted that what that guy wrote was very good even if he deliberately added a lot of nonsense, and it was definitely not a problem to inspire the world, but compared with the pure dry goods before, it is a different thing compared with the current watery content. This is cheating? Immediately, Miss Sia's admiration for the other party dropped a lot, and she was talented, but this integrity was really far from it. Is this what people write today? Sima Lang asked in shock. Yes, a guy who has no integrity for money, obviously writes a good book and says that many people will admire him, but he has to add nonsense to it, so I have to delete the nonsense and recompile it now. Miss Sia said with an indignant face. Sima Lang couldn't close his mouth after hearing this. This kind of person would actually be short of money. Just look at the book he wrote, you can tell that he is definitely a wise man. Who knows? Maybe people just love money. Miss Sia said casually. She had turned all her admiration for this person into contempt for content injection. Can Miss Sir tell the other party where she lives? Sima Lang solemnly bowed. Such a strange person will regret it for the rest of his life. I don't know where he lives. No one knows where he lives in Fengao, and of course I don't know how they took the money. Miss Sir hated the other party's mystery. After all, as an admirer, she was helpless against such a mysterious person. Sima Lang looked at Miss Sir's face and knew that the other party was not lying, which means that the other party was a hermit, and he was also a hermit who didn't want anyone to know. Alas, such a strange person has no chance to meet. Sima Lang sighed, and Zhuge Jin nodded in agreement. Don't be emotional, it's about to close. If you continue to stay here, you will be kicked out by the city management, and my sister can mobilize the 5 urban management branches at any time. Miss Cai warned several people. Thank you, Miss Cai. The 4 of them saluted Miss Cai. Let's leave now. After leaving the main gate, Sima Lang chatted with Zhuge Liang, and soon the two reached an agreement to write down the book he and his brother were reading and exchange it with each other, which could also add 1 or 2 more wisdoms. Zhongda, how is this Tarzan? Sima Lang asked. Treasureland, it's a pity it's not suitable for me. I'm going to travel the world to find my lord. Liu Xuanda is not suitable for me. Sima Yi said with a sigh, it's a pity for these books, and my brother is probably a pity too. Yes, Liu Xuanda is indeed a blessing. Sima Lang sighed and looked back at the library. With this treasure, Dao prosperity is coming. Chapter 296 Admiring the luxurious Liu Xuanda. As the sun set, a carriage entered Fengao with several carts of gifts under the protection of nearly 100 soldiers. Zhu Shou in the car opened the window and looked at Fengao's tall city wall, the blue stone floor, the straight streets, and looked at the endless flow of people on the street, the bustling shops on the left, and the endless flow of merchants. People say that Mount Tai has the fear of Longxing, and there is no nonsense, seeing this people living and working in peace and contentment, under the rule of a peaceful and prosperous scene, thinking about the scene of the small county town of Fengao before, Liu Xuanda is worthy of being a hero. Zhu Shou compared Feng Jiao and the Bohai Sea he was proud of, and finally could only sigh. Jizhou Zhu Gong, Hua Zijian was ordered to come and greet him. Hua Xiong led a team of elites to bow to Zhu Shou's carriage and said loudly, General Hua invited. Zhu Shou walked out of the carriage and bowed to Hua Xiong. It is a great honor to be greeted by the general. Zhu Gong lifts love. Hua Xiong made a gesture of invitation to Zhu Shou. Fengao is so prosperous, I don't know what clever plan there is. How can the people of the same Han be content with food and clothing on one side, and be displaced on the other? Zhu Shou drove his horse and followed Hua Xiong with a smile on his face, and he didn't think of an answer. This is the responsibility of the military division. How can I know? To say that the only one who can understand in our group of generals is Zilong, and the others are bitter ha-ha, and they can only listen to the command of others. Hua Xiong said casually, for a person like Zhao Yun who is handsome, good in martial arts, strong in strength, and able to lead troops. Hua Xiong, a guy who would mix in with the civil servants when necessary, couldn't even be jealous. Zhao Zilong? Zhu Shou touched his beard. I heard that there are many military generals in the world, and I heard that he has been serving as a Tuncheon captain. I don't know when I will be able to lead the cavalry on the battlefield.
The White Horse Volunteer is one of the best in the world. Hua Xiong always felt that there was something in Zhu Shou's words, but his brain was relatively stupid. He just felt that the words were a little harsh, but he couldn't grasp the center, so he looked at Zhu Shou a little upset. Ha ha ha, the general doesn't need to be like this. Zhu Shou laughed, casually turning his head to look at the surrounding scene. He came to spy on intelligence with the idea of forming an alliance with Liu Bei. As for the alliance, both Yuan Shao and Liu Bei knew that it was not a joke. Sooner or later, the two sides will fight. A team of 20 city managers carried large shields and passed in front of Zhu Shou with clouds on their backs, and Zhu Shou couldn't help but freeze his eyes. As a role that had served as a military division and had been on the battlefield, he knew very well what these soldiers represented. Then in the distance before Zhu Shou was led to Liu Bei's residence. Zhu Shou saw 10 waves of urban management, and the quality of each wave of equipment and personnel was the same as the first batch, which made Zhu Shou secretly write it down. The number of veterans is a very important sign of combat effectiveness under any prince, and it is obvious that Liu Bei has many veterans here who can mobilize at least 3,000 for the defense of the government. This shows the combat effectiveness of Liu Bei's army. There is also Liu Bei's protection of his own subordinates. Zhu Shou looked at Liu Bei's scorching house shining in the sunset and was stunned, standing motionless at the door. Zhu Gong, please. Hua Xiong snickered in his heart. In his opinion, Chen Shi asked Hua Xiong to invite the advisors and generals who came to live in Liu Bei's new home just to see the jokes of these people. You must know that they were also frightened when they saw Liu Bei's new mansion. This is Liu Shijun's residence? Zhu Shou looked at the tall building in front of him in shock that could blind his eyes. Yes, the Lord deliberately asked the built residence, Mrs. Zhen estimated that this house was about 1 billion yuan, but the decoration inside was estimated to be far more than that. I really don't know what the Lord thinks. Hua Xiong said with some resentment, saying that these few words were Chen Shi asked Hua Xiong to say. Zhu Shou was shocked by the building in front of him. Although he had heard the people of Taishan say that Liu Bei's place was comparable to the Heavenly Palace, he thought that someone was joking before, but after meeting him this time, Zhu Shou finally understood what it means to be famous as to meet, what a benevolent person. How many people can be saved with so much money? This house is built of gold. I heard people say that Liu Bei loved luxury when he was young, and he liked to walk chickens and fight dogs is not a good bird at all, and I'm still wondering why he suddenly changed his sex, and the relationship is still the same. The country is easy to change, and the nature is hard to change. I don't know how much military money this house has embezzled. No matter how prosperous Fengao is, he can't stand Liu Bei's luxury. After Zhu Shou entered the door, he asked about a smell of wine, a strong aroma of wine that could not be dissolved, and he had not noticed it outside the door before, but after entering the door, he felt that there was a smell of wine on the ground. What does this wine taste like? Zhu Shou asked in surprise. The Lord loves wine, but he can't drink too much first, and he is afraid that he won't be able to control it, so he often buys wine and pours it in the courtyard, ensuring that he can ask about the aroma of wine at all times, so that he won't drink secretly. Hua Xiong curled his lips in front of Zhu Shou and said, a good century-old cellar. This mellow aroma of wine cannot be distrusted. As soon as you smell it, you know that it is a top wine. It is actually poured, and the reason for the nonsense is that you can't drink. If you can't drink, don't drink. Can a monarch who can't even control his own *** be a hero? The good wine that cannot be drunk is rewarded to the subordinates. Actually knocked down, completely ignoring the existence of his subordinates, and gave Liu Bei another note. It is said that Zhu Shou did not believe Hua Xiong's words, mainly because the house where Liu Bei lived was too luxurious, so luxurious that it had subverted Zhu Shou's senses, and the preconceived belief that Liu Bei loved luxury, and then everything was logical. Duke Zhu, it seems that the Lord has something to do. Why don't we go in directly? Walking to the main gate, he still didn't see Liu Bei coming to greet him. Hua Xiong said with a wry smile, quite helpless. There is no etiquette between upper and lower ranks. Zhu Shou gave Liu Bei another fork, looking at the layer on the ground that looked like white bear skin, but far larger than the largest white bear skin, and asked a little strangely, what is this? Carpet. The Lord felt that the ground was cold in winter, so he mobilized merchants from all over the world to buy all the sheepskins produced this year, and took the essence to make this blanket, which was soft and warm when stepped on. Hua Xiong sighed and said, it is said that this blanket that covers the whole room may take no less than 100,000 sheets of sheepskin fluff to make it. Hundreds of thousands of sheets. Zhu Shou was directly frightened. How is that possible? Nothing is impossible. If Zhu Gong is interested in making one, you can ask any merchant in the north who is involved in wool thread manufacturing to see if I say too much or less. Hua Xiong sneered. In other words, this is really 100,000 pieces of sheepskin cashmere. As long as Zhu Shou asked so at that time,
the conclusion drawn must be true, but the problem is that it doesn't matter whether there is cashmere or not for other businessmen, so Chenxi is playing with no capital, anyway, just intercept it when it comes to spinning. As for cashmere, all merchants know that the output is extremely low. And 100,000 pieces can't be taken. Zhu Shou secretly wrote down this matter, waiting for later verification, and then nodded and followed Hua Xiong in. I don't know if it was an illusion or not. Zhu Shou stepped on the carpet and felt that his body and bones were lighter, and the person was warmer. Chapter 297, Imitating the Ancestors. Liu Bei, who was sitting opposite Li Yu, looked at Li Yu wearing a blue silk coat and asked with a tangled face, "Does Wenru have to be like this?" Unfilial piety has 3 no descendants, although Gan is virtuous, cautious, and dignified. But after all, there is no out. Please think twice about Xuan Dagong. Li Yu persuaded with a smile, "The back house is empty, and please fill in 1 or 2. But isn't it a bit inappropriate to tell other princes' ministers so blatantly?" Liu Bei couldn't laugh or cry. Food and sex are also a major matter of human relationships. How can it be inconsistent with etiquette? And it is said that for the sake of the people's livelihood in the world, Xuan Dagong also needs to do this. Li Yu sacrificed the killing weapon, and what Liu Bei couldn't stand the most was the sentence for the livelihood of the world. Seeing Liu Bei shaken Li Yu and continue to strike while the iron was hot, in exchange for a moment of personal honor and disgrace for the people of the world to be one step ahead of food and clothing, and beautiful women are in his arms, Xuan Dagong is not a loss, don't hesitate. Liu Bei smiled bitterly. He really couldn't say anything about Li Yu, so he had no choice but to nod his head and admit Li Yu's statement. In that case, let's see the Wenru play when the time comes, but if you can, you should still leave some mercy for Xuanda. Yes. A warm smile appeared on Li Yu's face, and when the time comes, as long as it is really for Liu Bei's good, even if Liu Bei turns around and scolds him, it is just a trivial matter, and it will be restored in 2 days. Lord, wait a moment, I'll go to greet Duke Zhu on your behalf. Li Yu said with a smile, from now on, you need to be careful at every step, and if you play the combination of Zhu Shou and draw the conclusion that Liu Bei is not worried about, then there is a possibility of a fatal blow to Yuan Shao. Well, the fatal blow is a fantasy. At least Yuan Shao underestimates Liu Bei. Then Liu Bei will have more time for development, and when the time comes to clean up the north, he will be able to break down some grain-producing lands. Taishan Li Wenru has seen Zhu Gong of Jizhou. Xuan Dagong has a request. General Hua is waiting outside the door. No need to come in. Li Yu said to Zhu Shou and Hua Xiong in the tone of a close attendant beside the emperor. Zhu Shou smiled and bowed, and also guessed about Li Yu's identity, and he was afraid that only favored ministers could arrange Liu Bei's General Hua Xiong in this tone. And he is also a very favored favorite. Hua Xiong was obviously stunned by Li Yu's order, but the other party was Li Yu, so he didn't say anything else. He turned his head and went straight out. Hua Xiong's obvious stunned expression made Zhu Shou see more things. That is, Li Yu's status was obviously higher than Hua Xiong's, and it was obvious that Hua Xiong felt that he was qualified to enter here, but was stopped by the other party. The most interesting thing is that he withdrew directly without refutation. It's fun. Jizhou's intelligence only has 1 note on this Li Wenru, that is, Liu Bei's close attendant, but even Liu Bei's military division Chen Zichuan can't speak in this tone to Hua Xiong, who holds a legion. It seems that the interior of Mount Tai is not as harmonious as rumored. Zhu Shou mainly doesn't know Li Yu's status in Hua Xiong's mind, saying that the entire Taishan except for Liu Bei can speak to Hua Xiong in this tone. It is estimated that it is Li Yu, and unlike Liu Bei's full acceptance without reason, Li Yu's order is absolutely unreasonable for Hua Xiong and can be made up reasonably. Because of this, it is not Chen Zichuan who appears here. It was Li Wenru. Sometimes only real liars are the most ruthless, like Li Yu doesn't need any drill for Hua Xiong at all, just play real, deceive one by one. Taishan Li Wenru, I have admired it for a long time. Zhu Shou raised his hand to Li Yu and bowed deeply. Ha ha ha, I can get the praise of Zhu Gong, but I am actually ashamed. Li Yu said that he was ashamed of himself, but in fact he was born with such a bow as Zhu Shou, and made a proud look on his face, but in fact he was secretly scolding in his heart. This Zhu Gong is not a fuel-efficient lamp, he is still testing me. Let's see, what's going on with this guy? Although there are many phenomena that have made him realize that Liu Bei is not as benevolent as rumored, and Mount Tai is not as harmonious as rumored, but as a wise man, he must be cautious enough. Xuan Dagong, Jizhou Yuan Benchu's chief historian Zhu Gong and come. Li Yu took Zhu Shou through a door, and Zhu Shou saw Liu Bei sitting in front of a large crystal table, cooking tea with crystal teapots and crystal teacups. Looking at Liu Bei's random fiddling behavior, I know that this is not pretending to be arbitrary, but really indifferent, luxurious to this extent is actually used to it. Zhu Shou already feels that his fear of Liu Bei before is completely unnecessary, and the Liu Bei sitting opposite Liu Bei, who is playing with the teapot, is obviously useless, and the plaything is discouraged. Li Yu is very satisfied with Liu Bei's current actions. At the beginning Liu Bei did not dare to touch the teapot and teacup prepared by Chen Shi, and then accidentally dropped a few when drinking tea with Chen Shi, and then he was indifferent. Sometimes he treats a certain treasure that seems very noble to others, and what is revealed is casualness. In Zhu Shou's view, how can Liu Bei, who is accustomed to this kind of life, endure hardship? Jizhou Zhugong and Shen Degong have met. Zhu Shou seemed to have just reacted and saluted Liu Bei in a panic. I have never seen such a treasure, and I ask Xuandegang to forgive me for being fascinated for a while. Ha ha ha, how about you look at my house? Liu Bei asked with a smile. It is extremely gorgeous, and there is no one in the world who can compare with it. Zhu Shou said truthfully, it's like a natural thing. I don't know how much it cost Xuandegong to build this house. Ha 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 ha, what's so much about a small amount of money? Liu Bei laughed, and then seemed to think of something, and said with a melancholic face, however, although I have a mansion, I have no descendants, thinking that I am the descendant of King Jing of Zhongshan, and now the backyard is empty, and I have wasted it to build such a gorgeous palace to humiliate my ancestors. Zhu Shou instantly understood what Liu Bei meant. What King Jing of Zhongshan was, Liu Xing, the son alone has 120 super seeds, who can roar out what kind of character the princes should listen to the Qin and say every day, and enjoy the singing and dancing beauties at night. As expected of the same blood. This time, Zhu Shou directly did not doubt it. This was asked in front of the foreign ministers, and when the time came, Liu Bei's reputation for being good at fishing was already ironclad, but you really have nothing to say about people imitating their ancestors. Zhu Shou smiled and promised Liu Bei that when he returned to Jizhou, he would definitely ask Yuan Shao to help Liu Bei find some beautiful women to send over, so as to promote the goodwill of the two families. Liu Bei hurriedly agreed to Zhu Shou's proposal for a truce between the two sides to return Leiling and other places, saying that Gongsun Zon actually wanted to kill his clan brother, and he was not a son. It is said that Liu Bei did have some dissatisfaction with Gongsun Zon when he learned that Gongsun Zon was going to kill Liu Yu. After all, Liu Yu also helped Liu Bei a lot, and the two were still of the same clan. When Liu Bei wrote a petition, Liu Yu also helped, which made Liu Bei feel that Gongsun Zon was really a little too much, but Liu Bei did not cut off the supply of grain and grass to Gongsun Zon. After all, Liu Yu was not killed, but was frightened, so Liu Bei wrote a letter with great resentment stating Gongsun Zon's mistakes, hoping that Gongsun Zon could be rational in the future. As for the effect, in the eyes of Li Yu and others, it was obvious that Gongsun Zon had intensified. After reaching the covenant, Li Yu sent Zhu Shou out, and then ordered the city management to send him to Fenggao Station, and when he turned around, he planned to appease Liu Bei. Although Liu Bei did love luxury and liked to walk dogs and fight cocks, but he didn't want to do the kind of thing that his ancestors did in the past. Therefore, this kind of imitation of ancestors is a bit embarrassing in Liu Bei's opinion. Chapter 298 Fame and Virtue are written for you. After Zhu Shou left, when Li Yu came in again, he couldn't help but give Liu Bei a thumbs up. Xuandegong, I can guarantee that this time I will definitely make him Zhugong and lie dizzy. My reputation is over, and I can't run away with a good fishing color. Liu Bei said with a depressed face, how can you recruit famous ministers if you are not famous? Don't worry. Guanzi said that hegemony has nothing to do with lust and fun when he said Qi Huangong. Li Yu said with a smile, not taking the fact that the world said that Liu Bei was good at fishing at that time as a trouble. Seeing that Liu Bei still had a depressed expression, Li Yu's face turned pale. Hearing is false, seeing is believing. Wise people will not make comments on things they are not good at, and naturally they will not make comments on things that are not really certain. But the reputation I accumulated in the past is completely gone. I'm afraid that no family will join again, and every family is a person who cherishes feathers, so I'm afraid that no family will look down on me Liu Xuande anymore. Liu Bei smiled bitterly and said, he was not afraid of no reputation, he was afraid of no talent. It's as if a family has always joined. Li Yu muttered softly, then stood up straight and said to Liu Bei, Xuandegong, let me ask, how many families have joined Mount Tai since the beginning of Mount Tai? There are still a few of this. Liu Bei said a little embarrassed. How many can stand on their own? Li Yu continued to ask. I'm afraid there is no such thing. Liu Bei hesitated for a moment and said, in this case, what a pity it is that the top wise men cannot be cultivated. But as long as it takes a lot of energy to make it one by one, as for the family, the real eye-catching family will not care about the private morality of the lord they serve. Li Yu stared at Liu Bei and said solemnly. Liu Bei was indifferent. His power is already very strong, but there is not a family with a name and surname to vote, which makes Liu Bei can't help but wonder if there is something wrong with him. Liu Bei, who was born at the bottom, has always wanted to get the recognition of those high-ranking families he once looked up to, even if now he has surpassed the high-ranking families he looked up to, but Liu Bei does not have that kind of awareness.
He is still waiting to admit it. Xuandagong, the family is just a grass on the wall, defeating Yuan Shao to settle in the north. Eyeing the central plains, holding the 2 major horse-producing lands and the 3 major grain-producing lands in the north, our strength is enough to look at the world. What was the name at that time? What virtue doesn't matter anymore. My strength is enough to make all the families in the world kneel at your feet. Fame, virtue, everything will be written for you when the time comes. Li Yu persuaded loudly. Ding ding in the north, eyeing the central plains, looking at the world, the family kneels down. Liu Bei looked at Li Yu blankly, and then his eyes gradually became firm. This is the strategy that Sichuan set at the beginning. Yes, the original strategy. Li Xiong nodded and said, if it is not a delusion to say that the tiger prison is closed, then now there is an opportunity to implement it. Sichuan has taken 1 step and looked at 3 steps, pressing the general trend of the world to this step, and now we are getting closer and closer to the final strategy, so we can't help but be careless. Can we defeat Yuan Shao? Wei Qingju has not really recovered. The eastern part of Qingju is still barren. I am afraid that Gongsun Boigui will not be able to hold out for 2 years. Can we have the strength to fight Yuan Shao in such a short period of time? Liu Bei is not stupid. He has a layout that has been going on before, and now he already has some feelings about Chen Shi's strategy. Yes. It will definitely succeed. Li Yu said with a solemn face, our group of people has been preparing for this moment, which is why Chen Shi wants to suppress the Jun family, and this is why Chen Shi wants to feed the entire Jizhou business to the Jun family, because as long as we can take down the Jizhou government, the Jun family will have enough strength to suppress the rebound within Jizhou. The Jun family and the Yuan family are irreconcilable. There has been a huge gap between the Jun family and the Jizhou family. There is a rebellion to the top of the first family in Jizhou. It is possible to become a minister of the dragon. The blessings are endless, and the possibility of success is very high. The Jun family will never give up. Internal causes, external causes, grievances and entanglements to that extent. The Jun family has to take action. Li Yu said with a sigh. Chen Shi had the idea of pulling a batch from the beginning. So that's how it is. Liu Bei instantly figured out everything, and also guessed the distribution of Yuan Shao's troops at that time, Yuju, Jizhou, and Bingju. Once Jizhou was taken and the passage between Yuju and Bingju was cut off, then Yuan Benchu was almost the same as the meat on the chopping board. The important thing is that there is no problem of military investment in the occupied areas, and even the taxes that should be collected can still be collected, and the behavior of the Jun family will completely stabilize Jizhou, and it is also more important that Zhong is a woman. Liu Bei completely understood Chen Shi's series of arrangements, which were of such great importance. No wonder Chen Shi had always wanted to suppress the Jun family, and kept asking him if he had a good impression of Zhong, and kept saying that Zhong's identity was honorable, and he was very suitable as a wife, and it turned out that the root was here. Not to mention that Zhong is indeed beautiful, and her temperament is also graceful and luxurious. Just say what she will do in the future. No matter how ugly she is, I have to marry her, right? Liu Bei said with a wry smile. Only when he married Zhong could he truly hold Jizhou, and only if he married Zhong, all the families in Jizhou and even the entire north would truly kneel at his feet with peace of mind. Yes, when the time comes, Sichuan will rebuild the Chen family, and intimidate the family as the head of the top 5 families in the world. The determination of the main family and the branch family depends on strength, and then Sichuan's identity will be enough to seize the position of the main family, so that the family will have too much hesitation when facing you, and the families who are married to each other will see their back road here. Li Yu doesn't care whether the family is a family or not. Anyway, according to Chen Shi's steps, these families will return to dust in the end, so why rush for a while? Liu Bei heard Chen Shi's strategy completely for the first time. Even he felt the feasibility of it. Liu Bei sighed and stood up and bowed to Li Yu and sighed. I have been bothering you all along. Bei is really stupid, and I will ask the scholars to mention more in the future. Sichuan has always disliked restraint, and in order to take on the troubles of all the families, he actually took on the troubles of all the families. You're very scared. Li Yu looked at Liu Bei, who was bowing to him in a daze, leaned over with a slight emotion on his face and said, Xuandagong, I am your chief historian, and I have the position to check and fill in the gaps for you, and I will always be like this in the future. Thank you. Liu Bei sat down slowly. The monarch's private virtue will not affect the hegemony. From today onwards, I, Liu Xuanda, will listen to the qin and say on the day of my ancestors, enjoy the songs and dances of beautiful women at night, until the family kneels. Chapter 299 Ju shows thoughts. In fact, Li Yu and others couldn't know better. If they really gave Liu Bei such a wine pool and meat forest, Liu Bei couldn't bear it in a few days, so he used this supermansion to give an inducing hint to the envoys of those princes, and then produced a preconceived sense under Li Yu's words. After those people go back to their respective homes, Liu Bei will do whatever he wants. Anyway, with this kind of scum intelligence method now, Chen Shi can let Liu Bei put the 4 big words of love and luxury on all the princes' intelligence without pretending. Of course,
Beauties are just embellishments. Qingju Taishan is not short of beauties. Liu Bei can give Chen Shi a lot as long as he says that there is no problem from the east gate to the west gate. Naturally, Liu Bei can also have a lot if he wants. But the reality is that although Liu Bei likes beautiful women, he did not include a few in his backyard. Most of them are just eye-catching. The one who can really be regarded as a pampered person is Gans, and the others are at most a girl in the room. This led to a conflict of thinking. Chen Shi didn't think there was anything wrong with Liu Bei. Everyone else felt that Liu Bei had one less descendant. For a strong force, it was not enough to have a young and strong ruler. There must be an excellent heir. Well, even if it was not good, there should be an heir, which was very important to the force. So what Li Yu said before was not purely to induce Zhu Shou. In fact, it really had the meaning of pimping Liu Bei, saying that it was to fill the backyard. But it was really to fill the backyard, although it was a little inauthentic, but it was also a real plan for Liu Bei's king's hegemony. As for really letting Liu Bei live that kind of luxurious life to death, not to mention that Chen Shi was reluctant. They were also worried about abandoning Liu Bei. So what if it was abolished? After all, in history, Sun Quan used a beautiful mansion to put Liu Bei under house arrest in eastern Wu, and even made Liu Bei have an idea of not wanting to return. In other words, this method of raising and raising really makes people useless, and everything has to be talked about. The next day, Liu Bei continued to fast, and Li Yu also specially invited Zhu Shou to come over and fast with Liu Bei, which was a real fast. This move made Zhu Shou stunned, and then supplemented Liu Bei's character. After all, he is also a hero who started from scratch and created a foundation, although he loves luxury and is good at fishing. But the events of the struggle have not been forgotten. Well, it seems that it is necessary to send him beauties and treasures as soon as possible, and now Liu Bei has begun to commit the problems of his ancestors. But after all, I have experienced a lot of hardships. He still has the bloodiness and perseverance that the king of Zhongshan has never had, and he quickly dethroned him while the sycophants are in power. In case Chen Zichuan notices this performer named Li Yu, it will not be good for Liu Bei to rise up again. Zhu Shou followed Liu Bei while burning incense and praying, while thinking about how to make Li Yu good and how to disable Liu Bei. On the other side, Li Yu glanced at Zhu Shou and began to pray devoutly. He brought Zhu Shou here to make Zhu Shou feel that time was running out and that the opportunity must not be missed again. Let Zhu Shou realize that Liu Bei is still a little embarrassed to be greedy and lustful, and his body still flows with the blood and perseverance of sweeping away the yellow turbans. In short, Zhu Shou has a feeling that Liu Bei wants to fall now, but because Chen Shi's existence has no chance to fall, although he wants beautiful women, he doesn't dare to say it in Mount Tai, so he will ask Zhu Shou as a foreign minister for help, and Li Yu plays the role of a sycophant who pulls Liu Bei to fall. It is estimated that you can deceive a lot of treasures. I heard that Yuan Shao has been talented recently, and he probably won't cherish the BMW under his crotch, and when the time comes, it is estimated that he can be deceived by having a few more interactions with Zhu Shou. Alas, if the Jade Seal is in Yuan Shao's hands, according to Yuan Shao's current courage, I just need to fool well. Let the other party believe that Liu Bei is going to ascend the throne as emperor. It is estimated that he can be deceived, but unfortunately in Yuan Shu, that guy will never let go. After Li Yu finished burning incense and praying, he thought helplessly, and while Zhu Shou hadn't opened his eyes, he glanced at Zhu Shou greedily like looking at a fat sheep, and then silently turned his head, waiting for Liu Bei and Zhu Shou to open their eyes. Zhu Shou is not a pious person. After reading a lot less, he opened his eyes and found that Li Yu had finished reading, and instantly thought that the other party had also jumped a lot, which shows that the other party is not a pious person. Zhu Shou immediately understood that Li Yu was definitely a villain under Liu Bei's command. Li Yu was stunned when he saw Zhu Shou open his eyes early, and then an embarrassed smile appeared on his face. This guy is not religious in chanting. Liu Xiang's estimate is really accurate. I don't think I'll kill you. Li Yu got up gently, and the light gesture like Li Yu, who was kneeling on the cashmere blanket, was naturally silent, and after getting up, he slowly retreated towards the door. Zhu Shou saw Li Yu's actions, and also learned from Li Yu to stand up slowly, retreated, and then after leaving the main hall, he saw Li Yu sitting on a chair waiting for his arrival. Seeing Zhu Shou following, Li Yu sighed in his heart. Fa Xiaoji's estimate was very correct, and this guy really followed. Lord Zhu, please sit down. Li Yu got up and made a gesture of invitation to Zhu Shou. Come and taste this tea. This is the best tea from the Chen family. Good tea. Zhu Shou didn't know much about this new thing, but he could still flatter him, put down his teacup, looked at Zhu Shou and said, I saw a scholar walking out slowly, but I have something to teach me. Zhu Gong, forgive me, there are too many idle people waiting inside. I'm afraid that there will be ears on the wall. Only this empty main hall is suitable for talking. Zhu Gong, you also came to Taishan for a day. In your opinion, how do you think Chen Zichuan is? Li Yu glanced around and asked cautiously, for fear that someone would pay attention. Amazing talent. I'm afraid it's hard to have an opponent in the world. Zhu Shou kept staring into Li Yu's eyes when he said this, and was completely relieved to see the contempt in Li Yu's eyes. Stupid, I'm despising you. Li Yu restrained the contempt in his eyes and looked at Zhu Shou. Zhu Gong is afraid that what he said is not finished, not to mention how amazing Chen Zichuan is. The lord of Qingju Taishan should also be Liu Xuande. Zhu Shou did not interject, only to see Li Yu continue. Chen Zichuan is in charge of the administrative power of Qingju Taishan, and Xuande Gong sometimes needs to be approved by Chen Zichuan if he wants to intervene. This is not the work of a minister, and he has made several generals inside. I am afraid that he will be detrimental to Xuande Gong. Zhu Shou sneered in his heart. After listening to Li Yu's words, he knew that Li Yu was a complete villain, but this villain was very important to him. What he needed was the division of Mount Tai. It was best to let Mount Tai be at odds. The most solid fortress since ancient times was divided from within. The famous ministers of Mount Tai were grafted onto their own Jizhou, and they were still afraid of the injustice of the world. Chen Zichuan's ability to look at the prosperity of Fenggao, the peace of Mount Tai, and the bravery of the soldiers and horses can be seen from his ability. Lu Zijing, Liu Xiang, Guan Yunchang, Zhao Zilong, if these people can be poached, Yuan's prosperity is just around the corner. Chapter 300 Dao Gongzu's Thoughts. Zhu Shou and Li Yu were very happy to talk. In fact, both sides had their own ghosts. Zhu Shou wanted Taishan, a powerful prince who was enough to endanger Yuan Shao, fall apart, and take the opportunity to make a ruthless deal, and Li Yu wanted to calculate Yuan Benchu fiercely and buy another period of time for Qingju to develop and grow. After sending Zhu Shou out, when Li Yu came back, the living room was already full of people, from Chen Shi to Wang Xiu. Wenru, do you want to give me an explanation if you are so black? Chen Shi said with an unhappy face when Li Yu first entered the door. Only you can attract enough firepower. Who are you not on? Li Yu said casually, this matter has been done. Xian Digong's performance is just right, not only showing the perseverance and bloodiness of a hero to cut through thorns, but also showing the dilemma of a monarch who has just risen from the bottom and wants to enjoy wealth, but is afraid of his subordinates being dissatisfied. It's purely that you are fooling people. Liu Yi laughed, but this matter can be regarded as a success. I have to believe it. When Zichuan built this house, he probably thought about using this house to calculate the other party. After all, this house is too luxurious. But Zichuan, I ask you a word? How much does this thing cost? Saying that, Liu Yi pointed to the cashmere blanket on the ground and asked. At the price you asked, only real things are the most powerful deceptors. 9 truths and falsehoods may be exposed, and only pure and real things will not have the possibility of being exposed. Chen Shi said casually. He knew that someone would ask the question of how much this blanket cost.
刘烨、鲁肃、孙乾等人皆是做出一副心痛要死的神情，10几万张羊皮就制造了这么一个东西。你不知道5张黑羊皮能换一个百里奚？重试，错误原因。
Okay, Zichuan is joking with you. You don't have to kill hundreds of thousands of sheep. This is just the wool of hundreds of thousands of sheep, but it is the finest fluff in the wool, except for the small number. Others have little value. Li Yu saw that Liu Yi and the others looked like they were hit and explained with a smile. It is woven from the fine wool of hundreds of thousands of sheep, if it doesn't need to be so fine and soft. A few hundred sheep will have enough wool, and it will grow again next year. Chen Shi smiled and said, it's not worth anything at all. It's the result that can scare you to death. Fa Zheng snickered foolishly. I was also shocked at the time. Cashmere that only 100,000 real sheep can have. Everyone laughed after hearing this, and with such an example, they will have the confidence to pretend to be luxurious. Tomorrow it's time to sacrifice the heroic spirits. Are you all ready? I think there are a lot of people who come to peak this time. Cao Mengda's side and Yuan Benchu are still allies after all, and it is inevitable that they will communicate with each other, so don't show your feet on Cao Mengda's side at that time. Chen, she said solemnly. With the blood and heroic talent of a self-made entrepreneur, and also with the admiration of luxury and attention to other people's senses, the 2 different temperaments are entangled in Xian Digong's body, which is the biggest reason why we deceive Zhu Gong. Li Yu sighed and said, facts are always easier to deceive others than to make things up. Kong Bei Hai should not be able to come. Let's discuss how to settle Kong Bei Hai after we completely merge Qingju in the spring. Lu Su is obviously a workaholic. After relaxing twice, he brought the matter back to government affairs. Great Confucian, let him write a book and say it. Don't we have a lot of annotated versions of the analects? Let Kong Bei Hai study it well and learn from the strengths of all schools to make a real Confucian analects. Liu Yi put forward a very realistic plan. After all, after the complete annexation of Qingju, every place can no longer use a guy like Kong Rong who relies purely on fame and actually does not have much ability to govern the county. How to solve Zuzhu? There has already been a rift between us and Dao Gongzu. Yuan Highways incident. Lu Su said helplessly. In other words, although Liu Bei did not really say that he wanted to join the Art League, Gongsun Zon and Dao Qian, who helped Liu Bei the most, were both members of the Art League. As a result, now Liu Bei has overturned Yuan Shu, the leader of the Shu League, which makes Dao Qian obviously a little uncomfortable. The strong are always strong. Don't care about Dao Gongzu, his Zuzhu family is too active. Under the hard work, the body is not as good as before, and the energy is far from what it was at the beginning. If it has been smooth sailing, there may still be a lot of time. Once there are big twists and turns, Dao Gongzu can be said to be running out of time. Jioshu said indifferently, Dao Gongzu's choice is only us and Cao Cao, but no matter which one needs to compromise with the Zuzhu family, his son is too waste. Heir is really a big problem. Liu sighed and said, and then everyone except Chen Shi sighed in unison. I don't know when the Lord will have a son. Lu Su sighed and said, and then looked at Fa Zhang and said, it would be great if you could be as smart as Fa Xiaoji. Then everyone except Chen Shi, including the newcomers Chen Kai and Wang Xiu, looked at Fa Zhang and sighed, and Fa Zhang looked proud. What are you sighing about? There are not many smart people in this world. Most of them are middle-aged people. For example, people like me can be cultivated in large numbers. Chen Shi looked at everyone with contempt, and then expressed his testimony. Suddenly everyone looked at the sky speechlessly, and after a long silence, a voice came. Since Sichuan said that he is a middle-aged person, he can be cultivated in large quantities. So if I have a son in the future, I will leave it to Sichuan to cultivate. The requirements are not too high. Sichuan's current level is enough. Suddenly everyone present looked at Chen Shi with a look of gloating, asking you to brag. This is stupid, and you are still in the posture of a person. I will believe that you have cultivated a character of your own level. Congratulations to Sichuan. Congratulations to Sichuan. Everyone bowed their hands and congratulated with a playful face, becoming Liu Bei's son's teacher. It is indeed a good thing, but to educate Liu Bei's son like Chen Shi is a joke. Chen Sichuan's ability is well known. If this is not a born good embryo, you will not be able to reach that level in your life, the posture of a middleman, TSK. Can I take back what I said? Chen Shi muttered to himself, although he can indeed mass-produce like this, as long as he has this kind of almost unforgettable memory, the guy produced can be more evil than him. The problem is that there is no such condition in this era. A word from a gentleman. Liu Bei said with a smile. Hurry up. All the people replied together. Sichuan doesn't want to break his word. Liu Bei laughed. Don't worry, Zhuandegang. Our group of people will supervise Sichuan. Lu Su said with a smile. Besides, since Liu Bei's troops went out of Yuzhou and severely damaged Yuan Shu, Zuzhu Dao Gongzu did have a thorn in Liu Bei's heart. But now he doesn't have much energy to take care of these things under his old age and frailty. Just thinking about finding a backer for his son. Don't be played to death by the Zuzhu family. He has understood what the situation is like in Zuzhu for so many years. Dao Qian in Tancheng looked at the information in his hand, compared with the Shu Meng, which has now declined due to civil strife and mistakes. Dao Qian felt that the thriving Xiao Meng was more promising, and naturally Cao Cao, who was not very satisfied before, is now also included in his field of vision. After all, he is old, and now he is just looking for a backer for his son, as long as the other party is good and strong enough. It is precisely because of this that Dao Qian plans to marry Cao Song, and by the way, he released to Cao Song a message that he wanted to exchange Zuzhu, a large grain producer in the Central Plains, for his two sons to have no worries in his life. Liu Bei made him a little uneasy, and his years of experience as an official let him know that sometimes what is snatched is more worth cherishing than what others give. Zuzhu is rich. This is a well-known thing. Dao Qian intends to use this as bait to hang Cao Cao and Liu Bei to take the bait. No matter who wins or loses in the wrestling between the two, whoever can satisfy him will give the territory to whom. As for the Yuzhou Yuan family, originally thought it was a backer, but I didn't expect anyone to step on it.